We are back to the interactive live streams. I'm Crux, I'm a fundamental analyst, and today we're going to go over altcoins. So I'm going to be ranking them basically S all the way through what is a failure of an altcoin. And we're going to specifically target the medium and the low cap crypto opportunities out there. But if you want, I could throw a little bit of knowledge at you on the low caps if you want to hit those in the Q&A sections. But today, we're definitely going to start off with where I personally think that we are within this 4-year cycle that I've been very bullish on. And pretty soon, I think the bottom will be in. So stick around. I'm going to start with the overall macros first, give my take. It'll be about 10 minutes long or so, so stick with me because that's going to be in a very important 10 minutes. And then we will move on to ranking all these different cryptocurrencies. And I'll be honest, I think I'm going to make probably the best list you're going to find on YouTube. And maybe you could challenge me and create your own list and send it my way over in Discord because we have a free Discord server. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, real quick, I do have a Instagram, I have a Twitter, and I also have an X account. So definitely follow me if you could help me with just one of those things. Instagram, Twitter, or even subscribing to YouTube if you're not a follower yet. But that's the best way that you can help my channel. And we are one of the fastest growing crypto communities in all of, not just YouTube, but on X as well. So we're out there, we're in there like swimwear. And today you will learn why we are. So, all right, moving on. This video goes out tomorrow. So it's going to be Kaspa. If you hold some Kaspa, throw Ks in chat because this is my favorite cryptocurrency that is out there. And honestly, I think that this is going to be the best asymmetric bet in all of crypto. So I try not to be biased. I just really like this opportunity. And I think, you know, from somebody who has made a lot in crypto, that this is going to be your best asymmetric bet going into the next bull market. And you'll understand why tomorrow whenever this video drops. So also spoiler real quick, I will be donating a lot. Well, depends. It depends on the interaction and the engagement within this video, but I'll be donating a good amount of money to the Kaspa Development Fund. And to learn more about that, you have to watch the video. But if you have some Kaspa, that is how you help the community. And the coolest part is nobody in this community is receiving funds from them as a content creator. So with 100% certainty, you understand I'm not getting paid to promote or shill this crypto. It is 100% my honest thoughts. So also, this video will go out on Thursday of this week. Actually, Thursday or Friday. So it will go out this week, but you see Kaspa up there again. You see Kita. So if you have some Kita, throw more Ks in chat. Get a whole bunch of Ks going. And then lastly, there is going to be a third cryptocurrency. I already know which one I'm going to add here. And I'm just doing the analysis right now. I'll break it down for you guys, but I think there's 3 different cryptos that stand out among the crowd that asymmetrically will be your best bets. And again, these are going to be your low cap to mid cap opportunities. We know Kaspa's fighting around that 50th market cap position, but Kita is fighting for that 100 mil market cap position. And this third opportunity is closer to Kaspa than it is Kita in terms of market cap. So definitely, I think everybody should be holding these 3 different ones. And again, this video goes out later this week. All right. And real quick, before I get to the alpha, because I know you guys are definitely just chopping at the bits waiting to get into this. I do have, well, make sure you throw your questions in chat because after I go through the alpha, before I get into the ranking of S all the way through F on all the top cryptocurrencies, I'm going to do a Q&A segment because I want to make sure all you guys who have uneasy, you know, uncertainties, what's going on, crypto just crashed from 126,000 all the way down to 60K, what's going on, Crux? And I'm here to kind of just calm those nerves. I've been doing very well in terms of being able to walk you guys through what a bear winter looks like. So we will see what the next couple months has in store for us. So let's jump into more alpha. So next week, I will be talking about Cardano. Also, my Kaspa video tomorrow, I'll be talking about Cardano. And if you hold Cardano, go ahead and make sure you watch this Kaspa video tomorrow because I'm going to be very, how do I say this? I'm be very direct towards Cardano because we have one last shot. I consider myself in the Cardano, like the ADA gang. We have one last shot to make this ecosystem thrive. And I'm going to give my honest thoughts next week in a full-fledged video that's directed specifically at Cardano. And this right here will kind of help you get in front of it. But Tim Draper, this dude, he's paramount in terms of where the financial system has derived from. Silicon Valley. Definitely check your facts on who this guy is, Tim Draper, and his influence on the Cardano ecosystem as of late. So I will cover this more next week. Moving on. A lot of people have been asking me my thoughts on SpaceX. This has definitely been making the markets volatile. In fact, Elon Musk is about to be more wealthy than the entire crypto market, which is crazy. Pushing $2.5 trillion, insane. And people are asking me what's going on. Like, I missed the IPO. It's pumping. Today, actually, within the last hour, it has pulled back slightly. It's just going to be very volatile. But let me explain why I personally have not bought any, and I will be waiting. So let me just throw a quick preface. In October, I called the peak, and I said in October of this year, we'll be around 40K, and that will be the bottom. So that's why I think crypto across the last year has been the best asset class to purchase, because as gold goes up, as oil went up, as all these other asset classes, especially S&P 500, have gone up, crypto has gone down. It's the only asset class that's gone down. So I like to buy the fear. I do reverse psychology, and I think that's how I've won in these markets. But I am not buying this yet. What I'm waiting for is I'm going through these unlocks. So if you follow my channel, I talk about tokenomics a lot. And I talk about whenever somebody gets, especially early insider who's bought for fractions of the cost of a current share, they're able to dump on you for a multiple much higher than the people at the IPO could get. So what I'm looking at is here. You have this kind of a mission schedule or an unlock schedule to where these people will be able to sell and dump on you. And I'm looking at some pretty big ones going into Q3 to 4 of this year. And that is why I'm waiting, because I think October or so is going to be the bottom of crypto. So asymmetrically, Crux and his household is buying crypto. After that, I'm going right into AI. So I'll start DCAing into all these cool stocks out there. Anthropic will be launched already in its IPO. I think right now is the time to have patience, because it could be a bubble. We don't know how volatile this asset class will become, because the AI markets are pretty wild. They are propping up the S&P 500. And for me and my household, we're waiting. We're waiting until about Q4 of this year, whenever all of these massive unlocks happen, and we are good to go. All right, now shifting gears back into crypto. This is the psychology. I still think we're in the denial phase right here. So a lot of people, actually, get this. Yesterday, some dude called me out because last week I talked about coming down to $60,000. We battled with the 200-week moving average. And then this guy's like, I told you the bottom was in, because we pumped to 67,000, I think, recently. And he said the bottom's in. I've been probably, not even probably, I've been honestly the most accurate person in all of really X or YouTube who has called the bear winter. And I put money on any of that. So in October, I called the peak. And in each of these like bear flags, whenever we went up to like 95K, whenever we came back up to 83K and tested the 200-day moving average, I made videos telling you guys, do not buy the pumps. I've been accurate since October. This guy comes from last week. He's like, I told you, we are up and right from here. And that is exactly that's how I know the bottom's not in. It's because people use these short-term time frames of like a week, and they use that. So that's how I personally look at what this psychology is. As an investor, psychology is incredibly important to me. And when I use reverse psychology, I do extremely well in the market. So during denial, during panic, during depression, during disbelief, I am loading up the bags. So I think depression right here, this is going to be about October. This is when we bottom out. Leading up there, you got like August, September into anger. And then currently we're closer to denial, moving into panic. So I think panic is definitely going to kick in once we push under 60K, because that sets a new floor for the bear winter. And whenever you get a floor, that's whenever typically things get pretty scary. You're in like price discovery within a more recent time frame. So that's what I like to do, is explain with psychology. But here's the thing. This is where legends are made. This is where the people that, were able to 10 or 15x their bag were able to make it, because as you go from like complacency to anxiety to before you get to denial, you already have 50, 60, 80% of your funds pushed in, and you write it down. So what I've said, back in October over there in Euphoria, is go ahead and sell your bags, start saving $4,000, because that's what 0.1 Bitcoin will cost you. It's just $4,000. And I think everybody for the most part, can save $4,000 within a 1-year span. So not only did I call the top, I told you how to prepare in November of last year. And then once we get into a $40,000 Bitcoin here in the depression phase of October, we can deploy that $4,000. That is 0.1 Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's able to get to 1 million, 2, 5, $10 million, that 4,000 investment can hit you multiple six figures. If we do, 20, 30, 40 X's on Bitcoin. And people are asking me like, can Bitcoin really 30, 40, 50 X? It can. And what it's going to take is a lot of these monetary systems, like these fiat currencies, to continue to fight against inflation. People get scared and they throw it into this new monetary system that is decentralized and is outpacing every single asset really ever. So hit $1.5 trillion in a matter of less than 10 years. Twice as fast as Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. So understanding crypto will make you pretty rich in the space for sure. So quick little update on where we're at. In the month of June, we're down about 11%. So we did go from the recent high of about 83K, fought that 200-day, pushed down to 60K, and we did rebound. So what the rebound really entails is the macro conditions of Iran tensions and possible peace deal. And then also, I think the SpaceX IPO, our President Trump wanted to cool off everything macro to be able to allow this IPO to thrive. It is the biggest IPO of all time. So I think it has a lot of desire and need to be able to thrive in a cooled off environment. So I think the macros have been set for that. And, June is the second most bearish month in all of crypto. Going into July and August, which are both positive months, I think if we don't bottom by the end of this month, most likely we won't bottom next month either. But most likely, if that happens, August and September will be brutal. Now, July is a pretty bullish month in crypto. So we're going through the second most bearish month in crypto of June. We're going through a pretty bullish month in July. And then August and September, if you look at it, they are not good months. So that's what I'm betting on. But it goes much further than that, because these are the months since Bitcoin's existence of 16 years. Now, every fourth year, you get these Bitcoin cycles, and these post-halving years, or these the same years as the midterms, is where specific data happens, where it outlies what the average is of that time. So what I would say is the average August, the average September, really the average of the quarter 3 and quarter 4 are lower during midterm years. And I can prove that because of this. As you can see, 15 of the last 16 midterm election years were all bearish. That is about 95% chance that by October of this year, the S&P 500 will be lower than it was at the start of Q2 or so. So very important metric right here, because typically these markets definitely push over into crypto as a whole. So a lot of people think we're walking into a trap, as you can see, and it doesn't stop there, because this is what we have tomorrow, the FOMC meeting. Every single FOMC meeting since October, which is since bear winter started, we have fallen after the meeting happened. Not immediately after, but in the coming days of it. So this right here is a point of reference. You had 30%, you had 10%, 33%, you had 14%, and then 27%. That's a lot of falling. So Kevin Warsh, he is going to give his very first speech tomorrow. So make sure you're plugged into Tim Warren's channel, because we're going to cover it over there. And very important, because this is what will definitely affect it this week in terms of what's happening in these markets. And I personally think that within the next month or so, it's going to die out and we're going to go down and right towards that 40K mark. Here we go. Exhibit E at this point. I got a ton of alpha for you guys to soak in today. And all I'm saying is, going up into Q3, Q4 this year, there's a lot of red and a lot of uncertainty going forward. Next up, what I think is extremely important that not a lot of people talk about. I talk about the 4-year cycles, but what is a 4-year cycle? Every 210,000 blocks that's mined in Bitcoin's existence, it does a halving event, which requires double the energy, or basically double the energy for the same amount of reward. So it costs double the cost to mine it, right? Now, what happens is typically as the price of Bitcoin goes down, the cost to the people that are mining in places of like high energy, etc., they turn off the miners. Because right now, if it costs $83,000 to mine on average globally, why would I mine if Bitcoin is only, let's just say 73K right now? I'm mining at a loss. So what I could do is I can mine at a loss and hope that it gets above that $83,000 average that I'm mining at and get a profit. And a lot of people, they don't want that bet. They'll only mine if they're profitable. So every single time in every single bear winter, we come down and we test that profitability marker. The last bull market, it was about $22,000, or last bear winter, it was about $22,000 to mine one Bitcoin. We pushed under that to 15.5. So the miners, they typically like to push towards a centralized position to where a lot of the people mining in their grandma's basement or the freedom miners, they turn off. They're not trying to compete. The marathons of the world, the Boundary USAs and the big companies, they actually continue to mine. And it has been known that Bitcoin will mine during a negative period of production, but we are where we need to be in terms of where we should be accumulating. So if there's anything that you get out of this live stream, you should be accumulating at these prices. And that's not financial advice. It's just somebody who's made 7 figures in crypto, and I'm here to help spread the knowledge. This is why the Crux of Crypto is one of the fastest growing brands in YouTube right now. And I'm here to build with you guys as opposed to being outside and seeing myself different than you. Like I've been there, I've been in your position. I used to watch Around the Blockchain. I used to soak in all this crypto content. And I am basically a mesh of all the things that I think were good from all these different creators. So I think you'll resonate with me. If you will, make sure you drop a subscribe because we're only getting started. As we go into the bull market, my talents will definitely continue to separate themselves from these other creators. So that is what this space is, and you need some clarity. So just real quick, we have a trading group. We also have a gem hunter group, and right now the gem hunters is 33% off because we are in a bear winter. So if you're thinking about possibly joining the gem hunters, it is 33% off until we get back to out of a bear winter, which is a pretty solid bet. Now, I think the gem hunters are really going to thrive in the bull market. So I understand if you would not consider that one, but if you want to take your time to learn how to trade, we have something over here called the Academy. And the students is only $30 a month. There's 90 different videos on how to take your trading from rookie to pro. It's pretty dope. Tim Warren, he's really good with the charts and he's good at teaching. So that's 2 different things on why this Academy can help you in this bear winter. All right. Let's go ahead and get into some Q&A and make sure everybody's having a good day because you're watching this beautiful live stream. We are here, says Just Dude. Appreciate you, brother. Hope all is well. We got 60 of you tuning in. It's pretty cool. A week ago, I probably had like 50 of you guys. So we're definitely still growing. And eventually we will have thousands of people. I'm not going to promise because maybe the bull market does not come in. But if we go into a bull market here soon, I'm telling you, thousands of people will be in here, and I'll be telling them the same thing I'm telling you now. You should have been accumulating in Q4, the year after Bitcoin's all-time high. So as we go 3 years from, let's just say 2027, all the way to 2029, through this whole bull market, all these new people are going to be coming in, and they're going to be like, how do I get that 10X that this guy got? Well, we're able to get the 10X because we bought when it mattered. They already are down, 7, 8X. By the time we're already up on our 7, 8X, they're just now getting in. So if you're here, I'm just here to tell you that you are way ahead of the pack and you are at the most important time. These next 3 months, every single dollar you make, consider it $10, $15, $20. And mentally, that's how you prepare yourself to hold until 2029, when most likely we will have to possibly see another bear winter, but I don't think we're going to see that. Now let's read some Q&As. Salute Crux in chat, says Carl. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good evening, everyone. Smash that like, says Carl. Definitely smash that like and subscribe. Let's get it. I see a lot of K's in chat, so a lot of people hold Kita or they hold Kaspa. And these are 2 mid to low cap opportunities that I will talk about in this video that drops on Thursday or maybe Friday of this week. I'm stacking nothing right now. Okay, I understand, but this person who said that already has crypto. So don't think he doesn't hold any crypto and he's just waiting to all in at the bottom. He has crypto. You know, some people, they're just waiting to acquire some dry powder, and there is a pretty big difference between buying Bitcoin at 60K and at 40K. So by the time you get up, let's say you timed the bottom perfectly, bought at 40. By the time you got to 60, you're already up 50%, which is pretty big. That's a pretty big start. And if you would have timed the bottom perfectly, 15.5 last bear winter, then you would have gotten an 8.2x all the way at the peak of 126K. So that's what it, you know, that is how you win, is you're able to time that bottom or DCA as it goes down, which I think most of you should be doing. And as we battle with this 200-week moving average, we're a little bit above it right now. This is equivalent to buying Bitcoin last bear winter at $22,000. So if you would have been okay buying Bitcoin at 22K and it goes up to $126,000, you did very well. And trust me, I bought 90% of my portfolio sub 25K Bitcoin last bear winter because I all in essentially in these large bulk buys. That's how I do stuff. I just wait, patience plan, buy. And usually I do well because of that. So if you're, again, $22,000 was okay to ride up to 126, that's when you should be buying right now. So the new 22K is about 60K. If you're buy at 60K, you're going to get multiple. Not financial advice. All right. I see a lot of Ks, even more Ks flying in. I'm shorting Bitcoin. I would not be shorting Bitcoin. I'll be clear about that. And this is the first time I've said this, I'm about 50-50. So you guys know I've been like calling it all in this bear winter. Is the bottom in? I'm about 50-50. 27 all the way to 2029. If the bottom was in at that 60K, most likely we're going between $250,000 to $300,000. So if I buy Bitcoin at 100K, a 3x at a minimum, well, 2.5x at a minimum, 3x most likely, I'm okay with that. So that's how I look at it. You can have patience, have a plan, and make sure you have a plan ahead of time. If you FOMO, you're going to make the wrong decisions. This is somebody that's lost tens and tens of thousands of dollars in single 4-hour periods, lost 6 figures in single 24-hour periods. So I know exactly what FOMO feels like. I learned the hard way, and I'm here to tell you that you don't have to learn the same way I have. All right, we got some Zebic Network. I dropped a video on that last week. I'll talk about here shortly. I like Zebic. All right, CAS, LFG. We got some Kaspa heads. Explain Uniswap a little. Okay, I'll definitely explain Uniswap as we go through our tiers. I'm going to try to hurry up, get through this Q&A, and we'll jump into the tiers right after this Q&A segment. Again, this is crypto tiers. I'm sure you've seen this before. It goes S through F, and we're about to rank them all. So it's going to be most of the cryptocurrencies you've heard of. I understand just about all of them at a pretty technical level, and I think you're going to learn a lot in this live stream. So I will definitely hit Uniswap there. Thank you for the question. I have never invested in Kaspa yet. It's okay, Gary. You know, Kaspa might be one of the ones. Well, first of all, I think 15% or so of a portfolio should be in the mid caps. So Kaspa is considered a mid cap. It's not a large cap, and it's not a small cap. So it's sitting around the billion market cap position, and about 15% of a portfolio should be in all mid caps combined. So if you have like 5 different mid caps, maybe have 5% of each of those 5 mid caps. So if you have Ondo Finance, that's a mid cap. If you only want 2 mid caps, maybe 7.5% into Kaspa and 7.5 into Ondo. So I've broken down this in previous live streams. I have one called Building the Perfect Portfolio, and it talks about 50% for most people should be Bitcoin, 35% should be mid caps. No, sorry. 50% Bitcoin, 35% large cap, so Ethereum, Solana, XRP, etc. 15% should be the mid caps, Kaspa, Ondo, and then 5% of a portfolio should be, you know, Kita, etc. So these lower caps. And I gave my example on why, because I put about 11K into VeChain at about 1 cent or so, and I wrote it up to 28 cents, turned $11,000 into multiple 6 figures. So that's exactly why, if you just had a little bit, you didn't have to go crazy with it. And, you know, maybe $11,000 is a lot for people if that's only like 2% of your portfolio, but that's what it, like, just scale it to what you're working with. And that is why you do want access to those low caps, because they could outperform everything. And that 5% of that portfolio could eventually become 30, 40, or even 50% of a portfolio, because it outpaces the mid caps and the large caps. Okay, let's continue reading some of these. Crypto is the only thing that hasn't taken off yet. I still believe Trump is going to make the United States the crypto capital of the world. Yeah, I mean, going into November, we have the midterms. So I think a lot's going to change between now and then. Again, I am all in crypto by October. I'm talking about every single cent that I've held since October of last year. I've not bought crypto. I'm deploying by October of this year. And there's so much that can switch this into a bull market, and the midterms is one of them. So I just walked you through why I think we are down and right into Q3, but leaving Q3, we are up and right, in my opinion. So we have a little bit of time left, but not to make you freak out, but you should be mining fiat currency and you should not be sleeping. So you should be working double time, triple time if you can. Don't sleep. Every dollar you make, $20. Put that in your head. All right. I know Angel has Kita and Kaspa in her portfolio. So Mike, I would definitely not take that bet because you're right. Angel has those. Angel's a smart cookie. Crypto Future. So shout out Crypto Future. He is actually the one who put Zebic. I saw somebody ask about Zebic earlier on my map. So Zebic is a pretty dope opportunity. Got streaming payroll and a couple other like different partnerships with XLM. They just went natively XLM. They threw an announcement out today. XRP and some of the biggest networks are partnered with Zebic, and Zebic's only about a 300 mil market cap. It's holding up better than most cryptocurrencies currently. And Crypto Future is a awesome content creator that you should definitely follow. You can see his name over there in the chat. So he's been doing this much longer than me. I've been only streaming for about I've been streaming less than a year, honestly. So I did say I'm one of the fastest growing crypto creators, but I have a lot to learn still. All right. I don't think old psychology about crypto markets still applies because institutions entering the game and upcoming clarity acts, says Eric Guitar. Eric Guitar, let me give you a quick pitch on why I think that is wrong. So I did this in October, by the way, of last year. So I figured he who owns the Bitcoin controls the price. Why? So a price is typically between the buyers and sellers. If this person sells, then it's going to lower the price. But if this person buys, it's going to raise the price. So this is who's typically controlling the price. Now, over here is just somewhere out in the weeds. You have these people that own the majority of crypto. I'm talking about Satoshi Nakamoto, Hal Finney, and some of the biggest people in all of crypto. They're just waiting at the sidelines. And what they do is they see these people trying to set the price. But every now and then you see this dormant whale. They unlock, their crypto wallet that has not moved in like 10, 15 years. And then they dump 30,000, 50,000, sometimes even more on the market. And those whales, he who owns the bulk of the supply will be able to manipulate the price. And I think they've come together, they've colluded, and they said every fourth year, we're going to sell for a year. And that's what bear winters are. And they stop selling every single bull market. So they will stop selling on us. And I can prove it through a long-term holder realized price chart. I'm not going to bring it up, but I showed you guys back in October and why we're about to go through a year-long bear winter. But whenever they stop selling, that's when we'll go up. Because currently, so Air Guitar, you just said, well, the institutions are here. So institutions owned about 9% of all crypto in 2021. So you had Grayscale, you had Tesla, you had MicroStrategy, and some other institutions. And this includes the governments. So China, you have United States, 9% Bitcoin. Now you have about 18% Bitcoin. So every 4 years, you have about 2 times the amount of institutions, from treasuries to, again, countries that own crypto. So I think by the 2029 or so, we should have closer to about 36% of all of Bitcoin is owned by institutions. And this does include, so you got retail, which is about 65%. Currently, you have about 18% that's institutions, governments, etc. And then over here, you have the all Bitcoin lost forever, which is about 3 million of the supply. So I've done the math, and that's exactly why I don't think institutions own enough to be able to prevent a 4-year cycle collapse from happening. And that's why bear winters are here. But I think 36% by 2029, they will prevent us from going into a year-long bear winter. So I hope that helps. And I know you guys are definitely trying to chop at the bits as we get into these altcoins. We're already 30 minutes past, and I'm sorry, but I like to answer these questions. I'm going to answer 2 more, and then we'll jump into S through F on your favorite cryptocurrencies. If you really think 50-50 that bottom is in, then why wouldn't you accumulate now? Very smart question, Sean. All right, so there's a couple reasons. Like I said earlier, if I bought at 60K and I bought at 40K, there is a pretty big difference. By the time we get back up to 60K, I'm already at 50% on my bag. So imagine this, right? If I would have bought Bitcoin at $40,000 last bull market, that is only a 3x, right? I bought at 40, it went up to 120, 126K technically, and dropped. Now, Bitcoin did an 8.5x. If you're able to perfectly time the bottom at 15.5, nobody perfectly times the bottom, but I got very close at perfectly timing the top. And about 90% of my portfolio sub 25K Bitcoin last bear winter by doing very well in DCAing or bulk buying at the bottom. And it works for me. So I'm a 4-year cyclist and it has done very well. And honestly, I don't really know. So like, I know why the halving event happens and every 210,000 blocks, blah, 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 blah. That's how Bitcoin's 4-year cycle works. I think there's a much deeper story. Who created Bitcoin? I don't know, but I do think that there is a collusion going on. And not to get too tinfoil or to get too conspiracy with you guys, but it is in the charts. You cannot deny it that every single fourth year, you had an 83% pullback, then a 77% pullback. Most likely, we're going to have a 70% pullback from 126 all the way down to $40,000. You can do the math. It's actually 38.8K, a 70% pullback from the peak, which is a diminished loss from all the previous in accordance with how it works. So, yeah, I think with about 50% probability, my portfolio is about 50-50. I hold a lot of crypto and I hold a lot of dry powder. So I'm ready. I can buy a couple Bitcoins right now if I want to, or I can buy even a couple more times 2, or maybe not really times 2, but a couple more times 1.5 if I wait. And that's kind of my headspace right now. So I don't think max fear is in yet. And I know this again because some dude, he called me wrong on Twitter, and I've been the most accurate person in any social media account, in my opinion, that has been telling you guys about how this bear winter works. Our interesting explanation. All right. Yeah, hope that helps. 73 of you guys in here. Make sure as we get into this, you share this out with just one person. So smash the like, subscribe, share it out, and let's jump into why you guys are all tuning in. So we're going to start over here. I did say altcoins earlier. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. It is king. And as I preface this real quick, I've made a video on why I think Bitcoin will bottom at 40K in Q3 this year, and it will top at about $250,000 to $300,000. So I painted this out in 3 separate scenarios. And as we go into 2029, I think with about 70% probability already that the 4-year cycles are broken. So if I say, you know, Bitcoin's able to do, let's just say a 5x, let's go with 5x. If it goes down to 40K, and does a 5x to $200,000, it would be there by 2029. But that's not it. It doesn't end there. That's the thing. Every other bear winter, I'm like, all right, it's going to stop there. We sell, we drive 1 year into a bear winter, and we buy again back down here. I think it's going to go up to that $200,000 plus, and it's just going to keep on going up and right in a forever market similar to gold. And the reason I think the 4-year cycles will break, I talked about the institutions owning enough of the crypto to prevent a bear winter. And also, I didn't yet talk about the cost of mining Bitcoin. So the cost of mining Bitcoin will be about $180,000 in 2028. I'm not sure which quarter. I think quarter, probably about February, March or so of 2028. It'll cost $180,000 to mine. Bitcoin goes up to 200K. It costs 180K to mine. But if we went into a bear winter and retrace, let's just say 60%, too many people would be at a loss, and I don't think Bitcoin would survive that. So not to doomsday yet, but I think if Bitcoin does not break its 4-year cycle in this bull market, then it is doomed. But without further ado, let me explain why I would put this in the S class. So today, as like the title says, we're going off of 10Xs. Can a cryptocurrency 10X? And is it worth the risk to try to get that 10X? So by 2029, I don't think Bitcoin would 10X. But if I'm holding it and I expect the 4-year cycles to break, then I do think it'll 10X. And if we are able to 10X by 2029, the Bitcoin 4-year cycles will easily be broken because they have diminished returns. So there's never been a 4-year cycle where it peaks at a higher multiple from its bear market low to its cycle top, right? So we went from a 22x in the 2021 bull market. This last one, we did about an 8.2x from its cycle low at 15.5 to 126. And and that's why I bring up the 4x. I think that is a diminished multiple, and that would essentially get us up to that $200,000 mark. So if we did over an 8.2x, which was a previous cycle's high, previous cycle's ROI, then the 4-year cycle is broken to the upside, and that's what I expect to happen. So I do think Bitcoin will do very, very well, and it is an S tier. Moving on, we got Cardano. All right. Know a lot of you guys are going to give me some slack on this one. Look, Cardano, it has one last saving grace. Talked a little bit about it earlier. Tim Draper. Without this guy, I don't think Cardano survives. Is that scary for a decentralized network? It is. So they decided to buck the system. In 2021, Circle actually approached Cardano and said, we could do a partnership with you. Charles Hoskinson and Cardano. Well, let me take Charles out of this. The Cardano Foundation said, we're going to do it our own. We're going to create DGED. We're going to be able to create all of these USDM, all these other stable coins, and we're going to compete with Tether. We're going to compete with Circle. And I think this is where they had issues. They didn't adopt Chainlink, Aave, and all of the best networks in crypto because they try to recreate everything. And I'm not going to get too passionate or like go crazy on them right now, but Cardano, there's so much potential there. But the only way you're going to fix it is if you get the VC backing from these big players like a Tim Draper and you buy the centralized products. It's okay to have, hear me out. It's okay to have centralized products on a decentralized ledger. Let me say it again. It's okay to have centralized products on a decentralized ledger. So nobody, Haskell is the programming language that NASA uses. It's a very scientific and smart, very hard to break programming language. That's what Cardano is built on by some very smart people. You can't exploit the network if you have USDC on your network, for example. If USDC, has its issues, if it freezes funds and those types of things, that's on them. I don't consider that a Cardano issue. So I think you can have that product without compromising the network. So those are my final thoughts on that. You don't have to rebridge or rebuild Web3. You just need to interoperate all of your decentralized ledger within all the hottest systems. We are going with the C on Cardano because Cardano could be a breakout. Cardano could hit a new all-time high this next bull market. Don't bet the bank on that. Trust me. I'm somebody who I bought a good amount of Cardano. I've actually taken 6-figure loans against Cardano and made double that within a very small amount of time, and then wrote it back down and basically cashed out of my loan on break even. I've made a ton and I've lost some on Cardano. So bought 66,000 Cardano at $2.10, thinking we'll make it back, and trust me, we didn't. So, all right, let's move on to some more cryptos. We got some stable coins in here. I'm going to throw these in the A position. Let's go with both of them. I think where's USDC? Here we are. All right. So both stable coins, I don't know why that one's smaller, are getting A's. Dry powder. I just told you guys you can buy at 60K or you could possibly buy at 40K. I don't think anybody should be all in. There's possibly an AI bubble around the corner. There is most likely down and right price action for the S&P 500. There's weird stuff going on with the FOMC, typically leading to bearish positions or bearish markets. I think dry powder is very smart. So don't go all in. Don't back the truck up yet. Don't be taking these crazy loans out. Have some dry powder just in case over across the next couple months we can deploy it. So I'm throwing that up there with A. For me and my household, we got about 50-50. We got the dry powder and we got the crypto in case we pop off right now. So, all right, moving on. Dogecoin, shout out. Let me know. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this. One's gonna be controversial. You see the Doge shirt, I gotta rock it today. This one's controversial. The reason I'm very bullish on Dogecoin is because, first of all, in 2021, it hit 75 billion market cap. You had Elon Musk behind it, right? He had some pretty important statements to be able to get crypto. Now, here's the issue. In the last bull market, Elon Musk was nowhere to be found. He was focused on Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. Whenever the cycle before that, he was focused on Doge, the meme dog. And I think he's going to make his return. So, and by he, I mean Elon Musk. What he touches as the most influential person on earth is most likely going to do well. So that's number one rule in investing is do not bet against this guy. And that's my take, is he refocuses on crypto. And Dogecoin, that's kind of your bet. It is a meme opportunity. It's a fork of Bitcoin. Doesn't have the best technology, but And honestly, it's not even close to as decentralized. It's not near as many. Bitcoin has 30,000 nodes, very decentralized. Doge isn't there. Doge is just a very interesting community. And I do think community has a very important piece in the overall valuation of what something is. So that's why I am like pretty bullish overall on meme coins in a sense. Now, from one meme to the next, there's a huge difference on what value these can hold. This is an actual layer one blockchain, completely different than a pump.fun token that launched yesterday because of some big news event, right? Some UFC token that, just launched because we had this massive event. I'm not going to buy that. But the ones that have proven to be valuable, I don't think it's a bad deal. And get this, Dogecoin actually outperformed Bitcoin last bull market. So it did not get a new all-time high, but it did do a 9.5x in comparison to Bitcoin's 8.3x. So I'm not betting against Dogecoin, and that was without the Elon Musk effect. I think it's a pretty solid opportunity. I'm going with the B tier. All right, and I'll do a couple more of these, and I'll read a little bit of chat, so I'm not just hogging the entire mic this time. But I know some of you guys you probably, maybe even disagree, and I want to make sure you guys get your voice heard. So next up, we got Chainlink, the most interoperable oracle in all of crypto. This one does about 68% of all oracle activity. So oracle activity is bringing real world data onto a blockchain. That's pretty important. It's actually one of the most important use cases in all of crypto. And Chainlink the tokenomics are rough, I'll be honest. And that's why it's not going to get the S. So spoiler, I'll tell you in a second, but it's not getting an S. In terms of fundamentals and importance, it would be an S. So if I did, right now we're trying to value this. Is it going to 10X? Which I do think it'll most likely 10X. But if I did just the fundamentals of it, yes, it's easily an S. This thing, if Chainlink stopped working today, crypto is going into the Stone Ages. It's going 5 years behind because the next oracle is Pyth, and Pyth is pretty far behind. Then you have Redstone, and this is only, aggregating, even with so the competition within Web3 space is very minuscule in comparison to what Chainlink does. So hope that helps. Now, price feeds and stuff like that is all controlled by Chainlink. So whenever you look on CoinGecko, or if you look on even a lot of your favorite APIs or even Uniswaps, Chainlink is controlling all of that. So it's very important if the price of Bitcoin is $67,000 on this exchange and it's $64,000 on this exchange, someone could buy it here, sell it here, get an automatic 3,000, and this is called arbitrage. So it is super important, and bots typically control the flow or the prices because that's what they do. If they notice on an exchange, it is this price, but on this exchange, it is this price. Price feed is pretty important, right? Liquidity on the exchanges could definitely affect the price, but price feed itself is very important. So that could be exploited in arbitrage opportunities. And fun fact, that is how Sam Bankman-Fried made it big over there with FTX. Chainlink, we are going with A or B? This is tough. All right, we're going A. We're going A. Actually, no, we're going B. We are going B. My bad, Link Marines. Look, the tokenomics are just rough, and it did not get a new all-time high this previous bull market. It went as low as $5 and got up to, I think it was like 45. So it did okay, but it didn't get back up to its $55 all-time high. And it has survived multiple bull markets, or bear winters, and I'll give you some credit on that. Chainlink's very important. I just got to see it have its real heyday. Like XRP, last bull market did a 7x in a 2-month period whenever Gary Gensler resigned. So Chainlink wasn't able to have some explosive move that caused it to do that. And that's why I can't give you the A, but you're very close. I'll say it's in between A and B, and we're going there. So Litecoin. All right, I'm going to just do Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash together. So these are two forks of Bitcoin. So they're both, in a sense, what they did is they sacrificed either the decentralization or the security to improve the scalability of Bitcoin. So the perfect cryptocurrency would essentially be scalable, secure, and decentralized. So what people tried to do, because Bitcoin does 6 different blocks across 10-minute iterations for a 1 hour on average time to settle. So I could send money to, Angel in chat, and it would take on average 1 hour on Bitcoin's L1 network. And nobody has time for that. who's going to wait around for an hour after they settle or after they send money for something to be not taken back, or anything can happen to that transaction? It's just too long. So we got Litecoin, which is a faster block rate than Bitcoin's 10-minute blocks. It's actually much faster. So that's how it increases the throughput. But it does take away from its decentralization and its security. Bitcoin Cash did something very similar. They just increased the block size as opposed to the throughput. So actually, I mean, the throughput also did get influenced. So I don't think it is 10-minute blocks with Bitcoin Cash, but instead of like 6 megabytes, it's like 32. So it can hold way more transactions within a block, which increases the throughput, right? All right, so let's go ahead and tier these real quick. I'm going with both of them. We are going Ds, right? So you might be asking, Crux, you know, Bitcoin, it needs to scale. We got Lightning Network. We have these things that also help scale Bitcoin, but they take away from the decentralization and the security, because 99% of all transactions that happen on the Lightning Network happen between 8 different nodes. So the institutions that run those nodes, they are the ones controlling the transactions. So if somebody tells you, well, I'll just settle my Bitcoin transaction on the Lightning Network. Well, it's not the most decentralized network in the world then. And that's what gives Bitcoin value. It is the most decentralized network. So relying on a sidechain or a scaling solution of any sort takes away from something somewhere, right? And that's why you have all of these different things helping scale Ethereum. You have Arbitrum, Optimism, and all these L2s, because they help push the throughput without costing, you know, I'm not gonna say $15. Like back in 2021, I've done like $100 transactions on gas because I was trying to buy some Shiba Inu. But during congestion periods, without the scaling solutions on Ethereum, Ethereum's L1 is cooked. So we need them, but eventually Ethereum will figure it out. And I'll talk about Ethereum here shortly. Now, before I get into that, let's go ahead and jump into some of these Q&As. I got 8 of you in here. Welcome in if it's your first time. I'm Crux. I'm a fundamental analyst. And if you stick around, you'll understand why we are a very fast growing channel. I see a lot of feedback. Hey, Mike. Yep, I'm accumulating. So everybody seems to be accumulating at these prices. Y'all are smart. Very smart group over here in the chat. Mike says he's stacking Cas and Kita, like the coins are running out. So I'm not going to give my pitches on Kaspa and Kita today, but this video, which you see Kaspa and Kita in the thumbnail, plus a random altcoin, you guys let me know your guesses. These are going to be your best asymmetric bet. Well, hang on. So let me clarify. Kaspa is the best asymmetric bet in the next era of crypto, in my opinion. I think the next 4 years, Kaspa is going to really pop off. Kita is kind of like way higher risk. We're talking about 100 mil market cap position. I made a lot of videos, and at this point, I'm probably the biggest creator on YouTube pushing this project. And then that third cryptocurrency, most of you guys know it, but I'm not going to let you know until you watch that video. So very cool that you're accumulating those projects there. Owl. Kaspa. Got a lot of Kaspa heads in here. If you're, okay, I read that one earlier. Hit that like button. We should have better like to view ratio. I agree. I mean, we got 8 of you in here. How many likes? Can't really see it right now, but I think we should have more likes. Average view duration of 10. So you guys are sticking around. You guys love what I'm saying. 73 in chat. Oh, 37 like. Angel, thank you for letting me know. I got to get on the community. 37 likes. What are you doing? What are you doing? So this last live stream I did last week, so every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I bring you what I think the most important stuff to talk about is. Last week I told you how you become a millionaire in crypto. Got 1.8 thousand views, which is absolutely insane for a channel the size of mine. So sitting only about like 6.1 thousand subscribers, I'm competing with like the 40, 50,000 subscriber channels on view count. And that is super cool. It's important too, because if I'm telling you like what I'm doing now, what to focus on now, that's how you set yourself up for success. So becoming a millionaire from experience, made 7 figures in crypto. I'm giving you the blueprint. I'm only Canton, says Nathan. Be careful, Nathan, please. So rule number one is do not bet against Elon Musk. Rule number 2, and this is crypto specific at this point, is diversification. Don't be all in. Don't be all out of any, well, don't be all in any specific project. Maxiism, I think, is inherently toxic for the space. So if you're a Bitcoin maxi, I have no sympathy for you because there's a lot of projects that have evolved over the years and become better Bitcoin. Shout out Kaspa. And you should be adopting and embracing change. That's how evolution happens. The evolution of technologies get better and better over time. Eventually, you're not riding a horse anymore. You have a combustion engine, and we are driving across the United States of America. So that's what you need to do, is adopt change. Sometimes I want to go all in on XRP, but it's scary. Silent, like I said, nobody should be all in any one project. XRP is a solid project. We'll get here in my pitch in a second, but yeah, don't go crazy with it. Make sure you have at most, I just talked about 50% of a portfolio in Bitcoin. I think that's pretty solid for most people, because I think Bitcoin's still going to do very well this bull market. You don't have to chase we are in the prime buying opportunity. You don't have to chase the 20 or the 30Xs right now. Later on in a bull market, you can start taking the risk. Like once Bitcoin, let's just say we buy it down here at 40K, we ride it up to 80K. And by the way, I think we are going to be at an all-time high at this point. In 1 year from today, 365 days, we will be at a new all-time high. And that is even if Bitcoin goes down to 40K. And I can prove this because every single bear winter, we get to a previous all-time high twice as fast. So this last bull market, it took us 1 year to go from 15.5 all the way up back to 69,000, where we topped in November of 2021. Now, the cycle before that, it took us 2 years to get from a bottom all the way to a previous peak, all the way back up to $20,000 after falling all the way down to 3,500. So every single one is twice as fast to get to a previous all-time high, which means we should be about 126K a year from today, which is cool. I mean, if you're wanting to buy Bitcoin currently at 60,000 and make it 2x in a year, that's fine. I think that's an obvious bet. That's a really good bet. So take that with a grain of salt. All right, let's continue. I'll read like two more and we'll jump back into ranking these cryptos. Could SpaceX be in a forever right market? Very good question. So for those that don't know, I went over SpaceX earlier. Most of the supply from the ICOs will be released by November of this year. I think your best opportunity is just waiting until that time. But if I had one stock to buy and put in a portfolio, like a Roth IRA, and hold for 10 years, well, there's two. There's either Tesla or SpaceX. You choose whichever one. I think SpaceX has the better upside. But I think these are going to be the first $10 trillion companies, either or. And I would, again, rule number one, do not bet against Elon. All right. Cool. Hit the like button. Appreciate the channel and the alpha. Yeah, thank you. All right, y'all keep on throwing your comments in there. Let's go ahead and jump back into this activity. All right, so we are almost an hour. My bad. We are almost an hour after the start of this, but we're not even halfway done. So let's get into it. Ethereum. This is probably the crypto that I'm asked about the most. And I'm gonna break this down into two phases. So Ethereum, your biggest issue is your scaling. I talked about how scalability affects Bitcoin. It also affects Ethereum. So Ethereum is extremely decentralized. It's also extremely secure. So you have that piece, but it's slow. It's expensive. And they offloaded all that to the L2s. So what they've done recently with the Fusaka hard fork upgrade is they increased the blob throughput, which allows more data to happen within the blobs or the blocks of the throughput. So what I think is, so Vitalik Buterin's been very vocal about by the end of this decade, by 2030, he wants most of the activity happen on the L1. But he has also been known to say like L2s and rollups will always be here. So it's not like Arbitrum, Optimism, Matic, etc. go to zero. But I think the Ethereum network will be very soon, at least by 2028, around that time, because they're pushing for much higher blob throughput fixing by that date. I think by that the second half of this bull market is when Ethereum really picks up, and it's going to be because of that. So once people start seeing that the L1 on Ethereum starts to cost less than a cent to transact, people are going to start using that network without going through the bridges or without relying on the L2s. So that's what I would say. I would say if you're going to buy Ethereum, I would wait on it. I would wait for let's just say 2028 and ride it for the second half of the bull market. But I do think Ethereum will do very well. I do think it will beat its diminishing return of last bull market, where it only got up to its previous all-time high of about $5,000. So where am I going to put Ethereum? Y'all gonna fade me on this one. We're going A. So why is it getting an A? Real world asset, that is why. So real world asset tokenization is going crazy on Ethereum. They hold about half of all the tokenized assets on Ethereum. The TVL on Ethereum is second to none. And honestly, I don't think anything's ever going to catch up to it. So the recreation of the internet essentially onto a public ledger, which is Ethereum, is, you have essentially who got smart contracts adopted. So Nick Szabo, way back in the 90s, he created smart contracts. He wasn't able to get adopted right away. He tried with Hash Cash or something like that. But Vitalik Buterin, he comes through at MIT with Charles Hoskinson, with Gavin Wood, and all these very smart people. And they create this digital ledger called Ethereum. This is way back in like 2000 and maybe 12. Peter Thiel, so the guy, hopefully I don't get flagged for saying that name. Very scary name. He comes through, he gives Vitalik Buterin a $100,000 grant. Get out of college, create this thing for me. And Vitalik does it along with these very smart people. And one thing I would never do, so I told you I would never bet against Elon Musk. I would take it a step further. I would never bet against the PayPal mafia. And these are the guys that control much of what we know in the world today. So Ethereum is a product of the PayPal mafia. If you already controlled PayPal and the modern current system in terms of how we evolved away from banks, Ethereum is that next piece. Don't fade it. Solana. I'm getting pretty long pitches on these, so make sure y'all smash the likes because I'll be here for a minute. So Solana, we're going to go into the S tier. And this is the first time I'm doing a ranking before the pitch, but Solana gets S tier mainly because 2 full bull markets, it has outperformed every other large cap. So 2020 to 2021, Solana crushed it. FTX happened. It goes down to I think $12 or even less from multiple hundreds in the November 2021 peak, right? So it did very well this next bull market. So it actually hit a new all-time high. And most cryptocurrencies, especially large caps, did not hit a new all-time high. Solana did. So I would not bet against Solana. Also, they're going to be creating stuff like Percolator to be able to rival Hyperliquid. Solana runs the retail space. If NFTs make a return, if gaming makes a return, even if those two don't make a return, you have different networks that are creating meme coins like Pump.Fun. Solana is not the network to fade, and including they have the Seeker, they have the Saga, 2 very big smartphones over there. I wouldn't bet against them. They are all over the place, including Silicon Valley, where they really came from. So I don't bet against big whales. Solana is going to do well this next bull market. If anything was ever to dethrone Ethereum, it would probably be Solana. So what it wouldn't be is Binance Coin. So Binance Coin is our next topic. The reason I said if it wouldn't be is because it is essentially a copy and paste of Ethereum, but it's not innovative like Solana is. So if you look at BNB chart, so I've talked about this in previous bull markets and bear winters. If I look at the multiple of Bitcoin did an 8.2x again from its cycle low to its cycle high. BNB actually did less than Bitcoin. So you held a riskier asset and you got less of a return in a bull market. But as we go into a bear winter, let's say Bitcoin is down 50%. It went from 126 down to 60K. BNB actually fell less than Bitcoin. And I've been talking about this for years. And this is because of cultures, right? If I look at Eastern cryptos like a Tron or a BNB, people in the East, they hold on to assets forever and they typically don't sell. Here in America, or especially the West, we like to try to time the top, sell it, and then time the bottom. So we will sell as we're just riskier people. That's just how it works. And in the East, they buy a lot of real estate. They buy stuff that you would hold on to at least 10 years or so. And we're just not like that. So I'm going to go ahead and throw Tron in the same segment, but they move a little bit different. Now, if something is riskier to hold on the upside, I'm definitely going to have to count that off, because why not just buy Bitcoin in a sense, So if I wanted to survive bear winter, and you trust me, I told everybody about a strategy, right? if you go into like a bull market year, like 2021 or 2025 or so, and you were to take profits into BNB, it's a pretty good product because you still have the upside just in case crypto continues to pump. But if we go into an early bear winter like we kind of did, then BNB will hold up much better than Bitcoin. So I think the only time that you should be buying like these Eastern cryptocurrencies like a Tron or a Binance token is towards the top of a bull market, because just in case, if you break the 4-year cycle, you will still go up and right because you hold crypto and you play defensively. So if you go down and right into a bear winter, you're not losing 60, 70, 80%. You're losing even less than Bitcoin. And you can fact check me, open up a Tron chart or open up a BNB chart. It fell less than Bitcoin, and everything else in crypto fell more than Bitcoin. So that's the difference between Eastern and Western cultures. Now, since you are copy and paste and you're not very innovative, I'm gonna go with C's on both of these. Okay, there we are. I'll do a couple more of these and we will push on to the next segment of Q&A. All right, XLM. If you know anything about XRP, Jed McCaleb, he created XRP back in 2012 or Ripple Labs with David Schwartz. He's like the lead technology dude. With Brad Garlinghouse came around, I think a little bit later, if I'm not mistaken. He became the CEO later. But Jed McCaleb, this dude, he's been there since day one, and he pushes out, he creates Stellar while dumping his XRP tokens. So these are things you always have to ask why. XRP is probably one of the best payment networks for a large cap. You're able to do up to about 900 transactions for a single penny. So it's absolutely crushing it. It's not expensive because nobody really programs on it. Nobody's creating NFTs and clogging up the network, causing the gas price to go up. It is purely this guy sending money to this guy. It is what Bitcoin was designed to be, essentially. Except they took the more centralized route. We talked about the trilemma earlier. XRP, XLM, they took the centralized route, but they increased that throughput we talked about. So XRP is able to do about 1500 TPS. XLM is pretty similar technology. So what I would say is, if you look at like the resignation of Gary Gensler, the ISO pump back in 2024, October, between October and November 2024, Algorand, XLM, XRP, Hedera, all the Made in America ISO 2022 compliant cryptocurrencies all pumped together. The ones with the lower market caps pumped better than the ones with the higher market cap. So what can I say by this? So Hedera was the best. It did, I think it was like a 9x. It went from like 5 cents to 45 cents or something like that. It did about 9x. XLM was in second place. XRP did about a 6 or 7x in just 2 months, by the way, from the resignation of Gary Gensler. Now, this is what I would bet on. If I held XLM, I would definitely just hope, in a sense, that the ISO or the Made in America cryptocurrencies will become a main topic in this next bull run, which it probably will. The Clarity Act's going to pass. Most likely next year, Trump's going to be, maybe, we'll see. Prior to this election, he was very much like, we're going to become the crypto capital of the world, buy Made in America cryptocurrencies, which is interesting because cryptocurrencies are not designed to be made in America, or it's supposed to be decentralized. But the way our president thinks is we need to be the innovators, but we kind of are. So I just talked about Ethereum. Even though technically Vitalik Buterin is Canadian, I consider that definitely an American cryptocurrency because all the innovations happening here. Yeah, so going on to XLM, I'm going to go ahead and put this in a B tier. I can't give it A because, they're not creating the next best thing, but they are a solid payments network, and I think it works. Now, I will give XRP the better bid. So I'm going to A with XRP. Let me go ahead and expand on this one. So XRP is not getting an S tier only because it's just too much speculation. So they bought Hidden Road and they renamed it Ripple Prime. So they are literally on the rails of Canton Network, which has a partnership to DTCC. Massive. So, but the thing is, here's with XRP, like, your fees are very low because, again, you are a payments network and it's very cheap to transact. 900 pennies for a single, or 900 transactions for a single penny. But those fees are burned as opposed to given out to validators. Now, XRP, again, since it's not creating revenue or creating these fees for these people, then you have to ask, where is all this coming from? And what are you really going to do? So I guess your best bet is you become the next Swift, which is essentially the monetary network that controls the flow of money across the world right now. But this is just more efficient because blockchain technology is just better. It doesn't take 6 days to, send money, or even a couple weeks to send money to, the East over there. It just takes a while, and you got to store money. It's expensive. So that's why digital ledgers are important. And XRP, especially if you believe like just the conspiracy side of things, like these guys, they were mentioned in those files, if you know what I'm talking about. So I do think that there's a bigger push out there in the world for XRP, and that's my bet on that one. So Shiba Inu. So it didn't do well this last bull market. Usually, every single hot network like Solana is going to find its bonk, or it's going to find Ethereum's going to find its Pepe, or Dogecoin's a separate L1. But every single network is going to find its breakout meme coin. And I think Ethereum already has it. So Ethereum, it has the Pepe. And they have other meme coins too, so that have just done better than Sheeb. So what I would definitely do, I'll go ahead and knock out Sheeb and Pepe in the same go. I'm going to throw Pepe up here as a B, because most likely what's going to happen, and I'll do, where's Sheeb? Sheeb is going to go down here probably in a D. All right, let's go ahead and expand on that. So why is Pepe a B? So Pepe did get the Robinhood listing, which is pretty big. It did very well this last bull market. It has its whole like Matt Fury narrative, but it also has like Andy Wolf, like Land Wolf. It had Spike and a whole bunch of other cryptocurrencies built across all these different networks. So I think the vision for the Matt Fury projects is out there, and it's much bigger than just a dog, right? It's like a whole storyline. So I think Pepe will continue to have its day. It's very liquid on multiple different exchanges, and they have a pretty solid community there. The market cap's it was pretty low in comparison to what it's able to do. And yeah, so I'm putting that at B. D is going Shiba Inu. I think for a while, like the big thing for Shiba was the burns. So in 2021, during that bull market, a lot of people would go on YouTube and we would stream live, and Shiba Inu is the next best thing. It's going to become the next Dogecoin. We're going to get to $1, all this other stuff. Like these burns have kind of lost their traction, especially you haven't had that breakout app. You tried with Shibarium, which is a decentralized exchange. Nobody's using the network in a sense, so it's more or less, it is a meme coin at this point. It is not built with a use case. Now, some of these other meme coins like a Let's Bonk, on Bonk, have a use case. So some of them, the communities are able to figure it out. And Pepe, they have a pretty cool community there. They are bigger than just a meme token. And I think the better asymmetric bet is there. So those are really going to be the only two meme tokens we talk about today. There's Doge, Pepe, and Sheeb, and I'm glad we got through those. Let's do two more, and we will move on to another segment of Q&A. So Sui and Hyperliquid. Y'all stuck around for these two. I love these two. So Sui, let's do Sui first. You got the Move programming language. This team came from Miston Labs. They created DM over there at Facebook. So Facebook, they were targeted by the SEC, and they said, no, you cannot create this project called DM. So this team, they go out and they create Sui. They take the proprietary smart contract programming language called Move, which is object-oriented. It is different than Rust, which like Solana and many of these other networks are based off of. And what they've done is they've taken the VC side of investing. So pretty, in a sense, centralized. Think of it as Solana's younger brother. So everything I said about Solana earlier, from network outages to, instead of like the Saga or the Seeker, like the smartphones, you have like the Sui Play OX1. You have a lot of things that Solana has done. So if you wanted to take an additional risk on Solana, then you would add that to Sui. And that's kind of every single thing that Solana does. It's like a blueprint for what Sui is doing in the background. And I think it is awesome. So very bullish on Sui. Now, the second token over there you see is Hyperliquid. That is actually the top 3 cryptocurrency out there that is creating app revenue. So app revenue allows people to stick around and make money in these ecosystems. So Hyperliquid is, at this point, it's the biggest decentralized exchange. It is a perp DEX that allows you to add leverage to your trading position. So without going KYC, I could put my hard-earned money onto this DEX and then trade in accordance with the price action. So Hyperliquid is it also has a VC backing. You have some very big players behind it. And because of the app revenue, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a good score as well. Now, here's the issue. You are at all-time highs. Who wants to buy a project at all-time highs whenever Ondo Finance is down 80%, or some of these other projects, there is a fire sale going on? So I will give Hyperliquid a very good score, but it doesn't mean just to go out and buy it right now. I would say, like, I'm giving it based off of fundamentals, kind of that same argument I gave with Chainlink. Like, the fundamentals are different than the investment in a sense. So let's go ahead and rank these two. Sui, I'm going with an S. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Now, since I gave it a basically a perfect score, let me caveat. Cetus got exploited, over $100 million gone, right? Vanished. They were able to freeze a lot of the funds and return it to the users, but a lot of their DeFi, it collapsed. So at this point, Cetus Protocol took the L. Bluefin, some of these other projects are barely hanging on by a thread. So that's really the biggest ecosystem that I'm really looking forward to, seeing what happens in this next bull market. But here's the big part. FTX happened in the 22 bear winter, and Solana rose from the ashes. So I think that's like, it is Solana's younger brother. It is everything that happened to Solana is happening to Sui. So if I could buy Solana in its first bear winter, i.e. 2022, that's like buying Sui right now. So all of this FUD from Cetus Protocol to these apps barely hanging on by a thread, I think they're going to revive. There's a lot of smart people that are attached to Facebook, and they're not going to let that go to zero. So I'm throwing it up there, but I had to add the disclaimer. And then Hyperliquid, you're up there with the S's as well, but caveat on that one, we're not going based off investments. Can Hyperliquid do the 10X that the title says? It can. So, but just don't expect, because it had such a good bear winter, that it's going to do more than a 10 to 15x, because all of the price action that happened in the past like a year or so, you have to add that on top of it going into the bull market, because who wants to buy a project at all-time highs when everything else is down? So, all right, there we go. So that's about 2/3 of the way through this. Let's go ahead and answer some questions. We're going very long today. I got about 8 of you in here. Shout out everybody that's in here. If it's your first time, I'm Crux. I'm a fundamental analyst, and I love altcoins. Crux, you definitely make a lot of sense, says Gary. Thank you. Appreciate it. I see more Ks. We got some Kaspa and Kita in the house. I think a lot of people are waiting for October, and I think Max Pain is us taking off before the typical bottom. I'm thinking August. So, Mike, you could be right. But here's the thing. The most famous words in crypto that got people wrecked are "this time is different." So until the 4-year cycle is broken, October is the bottom. That's what the highest probability will be. But you are saying so DCA, and I definitely agree with you. Last 15 years, it was driven by retail. Now retail is in the driver's seat. Air Guitar, did I respond to you earlier about this? I think I did respond to you earlier. But yeah, retail's not. Retail owns 65% of the Bitcoin, and you can fact check me on that. So make sure you understand who owns the Bitcoin, and they are in control of the price action. So Satoshi Nakamoto, Hal Finney, Crux, everybody else, we own the majority of the Bitcoin. We control the flow. Institutions, for the first time, they're the ones buying. They're buying off of us, and I love it. A lot of people are accumulating. I love to see that word in the chat. I'm DCAing, just being patient. Sean, if you're okay, yeah, I did read that earlier. All right, let's move on to some more recent comments. Love the shirt, says Shannon. Yeah, thank you. I got the little Doge dog, you know what I'm saying? Like, shout out Doge. You know, I'm sure a lot of you guys, you've counted Doge off. I get it. It's a meme token. It didn't do extremely well. It did outperform Bitcoin, but I get it. Some people just, they want to buy the utility thing. They want to buy the Ondos and the Hyperliquids. I like the communities, so that's why I'm rocking the Doge shirt today, and I like Dogecoin. Could SpaceX be, yeah, I asked that one earlier, or answered that. Doge ETFs, that is another thing that is coming. I don't think Doge had accomplished an ETF yet, if I'm not mistaken, Shannon, but they are coming. Thank you for replying, but didn't really answer my question. I think it would have been a better reply if you just said, "I'm trying to time the bottom," says Sean Preston. All right, so Sean, let me paint the picture, because like maybe you're new here. So October, I called the peak. I said this verbatim. It is Q4 2026. So I painted a future me, right? I said it is Q4 2026, 1 year from today. The price just crashed from $126,000 down to 40K. And like clockwork, the bear market came and took everything we built. And I said that in October. So I painted the picture in your mind. And then I already told you how to start preparing. I said, save $4,000. That's all you have to do. Get 0.1 Bitcoin. And that is like owning a small piece of Manhattan in the 60s. So that 0.1 Bitcoin, once Bitcoin gets to $1 million or $2 or $5 million, is going to turn to six figures. So not only got called the top, I started preparing you. And then you can look at this, check out my videos after this and see when they were created. So whenever Bitcoin did that fake bear flag all the way up to about 95K, I pushed out 2 different videos explaining why this is a bear flag and we're still headed down. And this was around February. And then also, whenever we pushed up to the 82K marker, I created another video, and you could see it, on the thumbnail says, do not buy this dip, do not buy the dip, right? So we go up to 82K, I create that video, and then the next couple days, we shoot all the way back down to 60K. So I already knew we were going to dip, and it's because this bear flag that was created went up to the 200-week moving average. This thing is like clockwork. The more you study Bitcoin's 4-year cycles, the more you understand it is coordinated. There's no other way for me to put it. It is coordinated. And that's why I think October, you could say, I don't know what I'm talking about, but who else has guided you guys through a bear winter as good as I have? And again, I'm not saying this, I'm saying it humbly. I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back but this is my bread and butter. This is where I feel like I specialize. I'm walking you guys through, and I'm hoping you guys are paying attention. If it doesn't get down to 40K, I've told you guys you should be DCAing. Anywhere near the 200-week moving average, you should be buying crypto. So don't think the answer is not buying crypto, but the answer is, as I go back to this, is those stablecoins got A's. They are up there. You should be having some stablecoins, because if we go lower, you can lower those DCAs as opposed to spending everything right now. So I hope that answers your question. And thank you for tuning in, by the way. All right, Dave, what up? I appreciate you for being here as well, Dave. I see a lot of new people too. That's so cool. All right, B Sums. If Bitcoin doesn't break the 4-year cycle, does the end of crypto altogether? Or do you have a thesis for what would happen for the rest? Awesome question. All right, so as I said earlier, we hit these diminished returns. So most likely we'll do a 4x from the bull market bottom, maybe a 5x. So if we go down to, let's just say 60K. 60K is the bottom's in, and we do a 4 to 5x. We go up to like 250, maybe even $300,000. And then we retrace another 60% and compete with Bitcoin's $180,000 to mine globally. So that's going to be tough because we had the diminished return. Bitcoin didn't get as high, and now we have to compete very quickly with the price of production. Now, if we go into another year-long bear winter and we retrace 60% from that, let's just say 250K, we go well under the $180,000 production cost, and it is tough because once you get down to the bottom, guess what? Now you have another diminished return. So now it's going to be a 2x from the bear market bottom after the 60% pullback, and most likely you will not get back up to that 180K. And if you can't get up to 180K or the production cost within a 4-year cycle, every single 4 years, the cost to mine Bitcoin doubles until the energy costs are fixed or the hardware is less expensive. So until those 2 variables are fixed, Bitcoin is on a clock and we are racing towards defeat. So we have to break this 4-year cycle. The second part of your question, what happens with the rest of crypto? Well, I think crypto in an asset class will be mature enough. So by 2029, I think Ethereum will probably most likely be $1 trillion asset. And a lot of that collapses from Bitcoin would either go into USDC, people will leave the markets, or they'll put it into the next best thing, which is Ethereum. So that's another reason on why you should be holding Ethereum, because if diversification, because if your cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, breaks, the rest are going to be just there to catch it and just carry the market forward. So this is an asset class. It's not here to just be one Bitcoin asset. And that's why I don't like maxis, because we need each other to push the space forward. Link has hurt me. Yeah, I mean, Link has hurt a lot of people, honestly. It just hasn't kept up with all the other mid caps. You're taking a big risk holding it, but you're not getting the return for the risk. Sean Preston, do you have a YouTube channel? I have not heard of him. Maybe he does. Perfect money. Did you say Kaspa? Let's go, Mike. Mike's on to some. Sup, Crux is SVJ. I'm stacking Handle and Edel. So, hey, we got some Canton community members in here. That's awesome. So, I'm working with Longview Compute. So, most of you guys that hold Canton probably know him. He's becoming the face of Canton. And I'm over there probably like once a week going on his live stream, and I'm helping push the cause because I love Canton. I've done Canton versus XRP, Canton versus Ondo. I've done deep dives on Canton. It's a solid project out there. But as far as am I stacking it? No. In terms of Handle and Edel, which are two different cryptos built on that network. But if Edel, which I think is the perp dex on Canton, does end up being the big perp dex, then you could get 30, 50, even 100x's on plays like that because the market cap is so small. So, all right, don't cave on Link. Yep, I agree. Just because Link didn't do well doesn't mean you should be selling. I'm pushing almost 90 concurrent, which is crazy. You know, we're pushing like almost an hour and a half after I started this, and you guys are still piling in. We're going to keep going. We're about to get back to the last segment of this tiers list. So if you're in, we've already done about 2/3 of the tiers. We'll knock it out here in a second, and I will get back to the last question. So without further ado, let's go ahead and knock that out now. Make sure you throw your questions, and I'll hit that after we finish these tier lists, and we'll roll it out. So we'll try to get this done in 2 hours, this whole live stream. So this is where our current tier list is. Let's move on. So we got VeChain. VeChain and Toncoin, these are the two next cryptocurrencies. VeChain is a supply chain logistic cryptocurrency. Look, this, again, I talked about like 5% of a portfolio should be in the low caps. At max, 5%. Don't be going out throwing all your crypto or all your money into KETA. If something does not have a pretty good market cap, most likely there's a reason for it. So always think asymmetric bet. Now, VeChain, again, is a cryptocurrency that I turned slightly over 5 figures into multiple 6 figures. And that was because I understood what was going on at the time. So 2020, 2021, 2020 is when I was buying. 2021, we had this thing called, you know what it's called. This thing globally, I'm not about to get, like shadow banned or something by YouTube. And it made it very difficult and expensive for companies to send stuff from one country to the next. So the cost went up for a lot of things, and it was the buzzword of the bull market. So what I think the next buzzword for this next bull market is going to be is quantum computing. So if you know anything about quantum, it is the scary thing, but the things that are scary will create volatile opportunities. So I think perp dexes and quantum computing are going to be like your two big breakout niches in this next bull market. And that being said, I think the supply chain logistics issue is actually kind of a thing in the past. So as like the Strait of Hormuz opens, maybe by Friday of this week, like the supply chains, they lift. And I think a lot of times like this will remain a centralized thing, is just supply chains. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't know exactly from like the very first piece of existence where this was manufactured, and this was the second piece here, it was at a different location, all the way to where you bought it from a shelf, I don't think the whole like understanding where the story unfolds at each piece is that important. Like this Expo marker, I'm not going to buy it because like the cap was made in like Taiwan, and then the body of the marker was made in like, I don't know, Egypt or something. Like I really don't. I just want the marker and I want to write stuff, So supply chain has not really made its way back into my portfolio. So that being said, I think VeChain is going to win out in that niche. I just think the niche isn't going to do that great. So I got to throw somewhere in either C or D. Like I don't think it's a failed project, but I'm going with D. All right, Ton token. This is a different bet. Ton token, if you know anything about Telegram, you're looking at one of the most efficient companies of all time. You have a very small group of people that have really, in a sense, your biggest competitor is WhatsApp, but they're much better in terms of, I think, marketing. So a lot of their stickers and a lot of like what Toncoin has done, like Peter Durov, he stood up for free speech. There's a lot of people that are behind stuff like this. And if your profit margins are so high, there's a lot you can do with the marketing. So I do think that it is a very scalable network. It's very fast, and it's plugged into the Instagram, or not Instagram, Telegram, sorry. So Telegram is a pretty good hub of opportunity in crypto. So I do think Discord is better. So shout out, we got a free Discord server link below. But Telegram is solid. It's actually a faster response. You get more direct communication with people. And I think they'll be able to bridge the Tron network into a very hot crypto, or a very hot application. That being said, it is very centralized. Do I want this a B or a C? I'm going C. We're going C with Tron. And honestly, if you put this at B, I'm not even going to be upset with you. I think this is more of a C though. So now we got some hot projects. We got Render, we got Kaspa. Let's get it. So Render is a 3D rendering platform. So think of like with GPU compute, like you see this computer here, I can rent out this RTX 6, was it? It's like the new one, like the 5080 over a cloud, and somebody can use my GPU to render like movie production and stuff like that, or even like video games and different movies and stuff like that. So what the issue is, people will have a, they'll have a screen or whatever, but their computer will not be powerful enough. And over a cloud, you can lend it out. Maybe it's like $3 an hour or something like that. But if this cost me like, I think I bought it for like $1,600 or something. So it'd take a long time to ROI, but like $3 an hour, I'm lending it out. I can make money while I'm sleeping. If it's 3:30 a.m., I could be making my $3 an hour, which is huge. It very much is an opportunity out there. So I think Render is pretty king in terms of not just what they're trying to do, but they're innovative. Like these clouds are doing very well. Now, Render did, for its first time, make its way into my third AI position. So I used to have Virtual, Tau, and Render all evenly split. And I would tell people, I think 10% of a portfolio should be in AI. So don't go over 10%. And I would do about 3.33% in each of those three. This bear winter has shown me Tau is the breakout AI. It's the kingpin in terms of AI. Because 99% of what Tau does, or 99% of what Render does, Tau can do on one of its subnets. Only about like 3% of what Tau does, Render can do. So Tau is like 126 different subnets, each with a different use case. And these cost millions of dollars to spin up. They are decentralized and they're killing it over there. Yeah, since I already gave the Tau pitch, I'll do that one as well. So Tau, again, #1 AI play. I'm bringing this all the way up to an A for Tau. It is up there. They're good. They have a couple issues as of late with their founder. So their founder, if you didn't know, he stepped away in like Q4 of last year. And recently, people said he's been too centralized. He's been hindering the network, and he just became an issue as opposed to being the Satoshi. So getting away from the network and allowing to thrive by itself, he's still causing issues over there. And somebody who owned somebody who helped create 3 of the most prolific subnets, he had an issue and he sold because of him. So I think Tau is kind of like, that's all in the past. People will figure it out. And I think as these use cases emerge, Tau will be a winner. So let's go ahead and throw Render. I'm going with C. And here's the issue. So AI made its huge debut whenever NVIDIA became the biggest market cap company in the world back in 2024. So if you look at Q1, Q2 of 2024, Render's performance was like second to none. So Jules, he created like a lot of, I'm pretty sure he created like the CD, if I'm not mistaken. It's either like gaming or CDs, like huge in terms of innovation. And he's the founder of Render. And he's been able to partner with NVIDIA through, what's that called again? Something, I forgot. But there's a partnership going on. There's a lot of people in very high places that are part of this whole piece. And Render gets a C. But Kaspa, you guys let me know what Kaspa should get. I already got my answer. And we are going with an S. So, Crux, why does Kaspa get an S? And I'm going to give the quick pitch. The video comes out tomorrow at me actually donating to the Kaspa ecosystem. And this is like the only network in crypto that I feel this passionate about. And it's because a couple things. So they're about to launch the Takata hard fork on the 30th of June. But more importantly, they got the Dag Knight hard fork coming out later this year. And these are two pieces of innovation that have never been constructed in cryptocurrency. So we're going to push towards 30 blocks per second by the end of this year. But more importantly, we're having programmability by the end of this month. So we have this huge dilemma. It's like, all right, you add programmability to network. You're going to be like where Cardano was in Q3 of 2021 when you're able to get to $3.10. So Sunday swap, min swap, Cardano starts throwing all these things out. It's a very programmable network. And that was the peak because the adoption piece never followed through. And Kaspa, that's where we're at. With Takata, we're creating that $3.10 Cardano. And essentially, we have to get the adoption piece. But if the adoption piece happens, you're looking at the fastest network in terms of it's done 5,500 TPS on its main net. This is not testnet conditions. So it is a proof of work network. So you have the decentralization and the same security of SHA-256 of Bitcoin. I think it's a hot network. It is doing its thing over there. Very brilliant cryptographers that are behind this project. And it is fair launched, most importantly. So like every single crypto or every single token that has come into existence has been through proof of work. It's not done through Silicon Valley VC backing. It is Bitcoin's younger brother, but it is Satoshi as if he continued to create a cryptocurrency. So that's what I would say. It is Bitcoin on steroids because it's added programmability and it's a DAG as opposed to a blockchain, which is a much more efficient data structure. All right. Trump token. This goes without saying, it is an F. You know, if you're an American, our president, he basically stifled crypto innovation in a sense. One day before he became the president of the United States, he launches what is called Trump token. Trump token in a single weekend hit 13 billion market cap. Insane. But behind the scenes leading up to that event, a ton of money from VCs was collected. 90% of these tokens go back towards something that Trump is involved in. And every single thing that can go wrong with a centralized cryptocurrency happened with this token. So it is down massive. And he used this thing to throw extravagant events in Mar-a-Lago, etc. And I don't think that's what the position of a president of the United States should be doing. So I think it's highly immoral. I think it's highly unethical. And the price action has followed. And think about it like this. If I put $1 into Trump token, 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to lose that bet because the people who own the supply are going to be those VC backers. And they got it at fractions of a penny. So guess what? They're going to dump on you. They are still up on their bags. Why would they not dump the token? So I'm very adamant about that token not getting anything above an F. That falls, same thing for Melania token. I think it was just trying to sap money, and it created a bad talking point for, we got people like Elizabeth Warren attacking cryptocurrency because the president of the United States is looking out for his own bags. So, you know, I say all this to say, like, I'm not like anti, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, but I would say I think he made the wrong move on this specific project. And all right, so let's go ahead and move on. We got Uniswap, we got OKB. Okay, so some of these I'm going to skip just for the sake of time. Uniswap, somebody asked about this earlier. Daniel, shout out Daniel if you're still here. This project is solid. I think the issue with Uniswap that's going to have to face is perp dexes. Hyperliquid, Aster, Lighter. These are all 3 different perp dexes. And then I talked about Percolator, which is going to be Solana's. The competition is going to be huge going into this next bull market on who is trading or where's the trading activity happening on these blockchain networks. Uniswap is the most interoperable decentralized exchange. It's the biggest decentralized exchange in crypto right now, bar none. They're also the most innovative. They have Unichain. They have a lot going for themselves, but until they add at least 50x leverage to be able to compete with the Hyperliquid, you got a dog at the, right at the gate and is looking to jump over that gate. So Uniswap, you've been running the field for a while, but that dog, who knows? He might be there to chomp at the bits and take you out. So what I would say, I like Uniswap, very solid project. I think it's definitely one of the ones worth DCAing into. I would give Aave. Is Aave here? It is. So I'm gonna give Aave and Uniswap both the Bs because well, actually, let's do this. I'm gonna give Aave the B because borrowing and lending is a more so Aave has that on lock, the borrowing and lending platform. Even though it did just get exploited, it is what it is. That TVL is second to none. At one point, there were like 42 billion TVL. It went as low as like 17 billion, and they're recovering. Uniswap slightly gets a lower score because decentralized exchanges have more competition than borrowing and lending platforms. So those are going to go there and there. Moving on, I'm going to skip a couple of these. Like I said, Avalanche, we'll go with next with that one. Nobody wants to hear about exchange tokens. All right, so Avalanche is the first blockchain to really like tackle subnets at a high level. Essentially, they forked their blockchain into 3 different networks. You got like X, C, and N chain or something. XC and maybe Y chain. I don't know. There's 3 different variables. Each of these variables have a specific task. So if Crux wants to create a meme token, I'm over here on like the C chain or something. If I want to play a video game, I'm over here on the X chain. If I'm over here trying to use borrowing and lending platforms or even DeFi, I'm over here on this 3rd chain. So what they did is they fragmented the blockchain. So if people are just minting dogs all day, like these little JPEGs of dogs, it is not bogging down the people that are trying to play Call of Duty, right? This makes sense. So if you're on a linear blockchain, anything that you do on this blockchain is going to hinder the performance over here, no matter what the use case is. Avalanche decided to do a fragmented version. So if NFTs are just going crazy, this one piece of the network is going to be pretty slow, and that's fine. It's not going to hinder the others. But the way that they're able to fix this is they added subnets on top of it. So subnets each have, it's much more centralized in a sense. So they actually have a pretty decentralized, here's the thing. So their Nakamoto coefficient is pretty high. So it costs a lot of money to run these nodes for AVAX. So it is a pretty decentralized network, but their subnets in a sense are centralized. So I had to clarify that piece. What scales it is centralized. What protects it is decentralized. And what I would also say, one last piece for it is the RWA piece behind like AVAX. They have some of the best partnerships in all of crypto. They're partnered with like Marae, which is the biggest asset manager in all of Japan. They are partnered with BlackRock. So if you look at BlackRock's BUIDL, it's being minted on top of Avalanche. Like big RWA play there, big gaming play as well. So if you want to take a bet on gaming, but you don't want to take the same risks as buying like Superverse or, you know, Alluvium or I don't know, all these different gaming plays, just pick up some Avalanche. So where are we going with this one? I don't know, either an A or a B. This is a tough one. Let's see. I'm gonna go with B. I'm gonna go with the B. Dang, this is tough. All right, I'm going A. I'm going A. Here, let me explain why. So if Dogecoin gets a B, I gotta go A. Look, let's go back. If Dogecoin got a B, I have to go A with Avalanche. Like Avalanche is actually, you know, if you have Guns, which is like the biggest game right now, it's on the Avalanche subnet. They have their own subnet for that game in specific. It's pretty cool what they got. The technology's solid. They're decentralized. Let's get it. All right, moving on. We got Cosmos. This is also known as like the Internet of Blockchains. So interoperability was huge back in 2020 to 2021. Since Polkadot's also on this list, I'm gonna knock out both of these in one go. Interoperability is not the bee's knees anymore. So what's happened is these networks have figured out how to bridge natively from one blockchain to the next without having a third party. And the reason crypto was created is to remove any third party. So if I want to send money to person B, there doesn't need to be a bank here. So if I'm sending money from Ethereum to Ethereum Classic, I don't know, then why would there be an interoperability network in between this, i.e. Polkadot or i.e. Cosmos? And that's, I think, the best way that I can put this. I think it's a niche issue. And if you look at the performance of Cosmos or even Polkadot, they didn't do well this last bull market. And I think it's because of innovation. So as these technologies emerge, the L ones become progressively better. We're not needing the third parties anymore. So And this goes with the same injective. There's a lot of projects that fit in this niche, and I'm sorry, I hold injective. Like interoperability is becoming not as important. So that is why we are going to give these a lower score. I think these are going to go in the D categories. Actually, Polkadot's going in the F category. Polkadot is more or less going in the F because the parachain design was way too difficult to really transfer. Like it was extravagant what they tried to do over there. Gavin Woods, he's a creator of Ethereum. I think he just like created a project that just nobody's going to use. So that one's going F. D is for Cosmos. All right, Aptos. So Aptos is not going to get a great score. And I'm going to run through these last ones quickly and I'll get through to your questions. All right, Aptos is not going to get a great score because the Move programming language was created by, as you can see up there in the S tier, is Sui. Aptos is more or less, I always invest into two things. The visionaries, the lead visionaries that create something that has completely revolutionized cryptocurrency. So when I buy Kaspa, I am buying the guy who created decentralized acyclic graphs. So a blockchain is linear, one block, one block, one block, one block. A decentralized acyclic graph is you're in the current block. The next option right now for Kaspa is 10 different blocks. Whichever one's the most efficient, that one block goes to that next block. And if you're doing 10 blocks per second, that is incredibly fast throughput. But again, with DAG-Knight, you will be 30 blocks per second by the end of the year, which essentially should increase the throughput by a theoretical 3x, right? So if Kaspa is already one of the fastest networks in all of crypto, 5,500 TPS on the main net, by the end of the year, it is the fastest, bar none, cryptocurrency out there. And also it's the cheapest. Well, it's one of the cheapest. So it is what Satoshi set out to create. Anyways, you're investing in the visionary, the person who created that. Not so much proprietary, but you're just the creator. Because as you can see, if Sui created Move, Aptos came through and they took Move. So it's not proprietary because people, they'll bite, they'll steal your technology and they'll try to recreate something better. But Aptos doesn't have the Miston Labs or the DM behind them or the Facebook VC backing. They are just kind of on their own, just out there floating somewhere. So I think it's a solid technology, but I need you to bring something to the table we have never seen. So for this, I'm going to C. It's a solid project. It's just not getting a portion of my bag. I'm about to get some slack for this one. So ICP. I went on Longview Compute. See, again, he's become the face of Canton. I went on his live stream and I basically gave my honest thoughts on ICP. So if you really want to hear all of them, go check out that live stream. It was like a week ago. This very scalable network is Definity. So Definity, they kind of took like the scholarly approach that Cardano took, which is pretty cool. It is what it is, but it's too slow. You didn't get your breakout app. Same issue that Cardano had. You can create the coolest technology, but you have to get adoption behind it. And I think that's where the issue was. If people think they're just like super smart, it's being created by this institution and this college, and you got some of the smartest people, but it's slow, you're going to lose the race. Crypto is a very fast progressing asset class. And from one bull market to the next, you have interoperability works, gaming works, neither work in this next bull run. So just because it worked previously does not mean it's going to win again. And that's where we're at. So I think ICP, its scalability is solid. Its canisters, like that's its proprietary technology on how they don't require bridging, which is pretty crazy. It's pretty dope. But again, your adoption piece is non-existent, so I'm gonna have to throw you down here closer to a C. So it's not bad, don't get me wrong, it's just not the next best thing since sliced bread. All right, okay, crypto.com. This is a leading exchange here in America. As a lot of different cryptocurrencies are hard to purchase here in America, crypto.com seems to have the higher fees, but I mean, they do have honestly, they renamed Staples Center. So Staples Center, if you didn't know, was like a huge Paramount position was one of the biggest stadiums over there by Madison Square Garden in terms of notoriety. And Crypto.com bought them out. So in 2021, they go on this massive, really just this massive like marketing campaign. And recently they've been on the same thing. So like they own AI.com. So Chris, I forgot his last name, it starts with like an M. He is brilliant in terms of marketing, and he is on Team Trump. So he's in there, he's in the White House, he's shaking hands, he's rubbing elbows. And a lot of times I don't like to bet against that. So this is one exchange token that I do think works differently than most other exchange tokens. So whenever the OKBs of the world like are clearly manipulated, crypto.com token actually follows the same price action as Bitcoin in a sense. So I like that in a sense. So what I would do with this one, I'm gonna throw it over here in the C's as well. I'm throwing in the C's. It's a solid crypto. All right, next we're going with Hedera. Hedera is kind of like their biggest change in terms of what separates Hedera from every other blockchain. First of all, they created the hash graph, which is a form of a decentralized acyclic graph. Talked about earlier with Kaspa. It is much more scalable because of that hash graph functionality, but I think their governance is the biggest standout piece. They have 32 different networks that essentially decentralize their network, from Amazon to Facebook to a lot of big names like Google, etc. And each of those 33 different networks have about 3% of the overall governing authority. So instead of me, I control like a node here, maybe, for example. I have a node at my house. I have some governing rights because of this node. I can change the blockchain with maybe 0.0001% of the consensus. These people have 3% of the network. So Microsoft, Amazon, and again, these are very centralized, but very smart people, much smarter than me. So the bet is it's going to be centralized people, smarter than your average person that's running a node. And that's kind of your bet on Hedera is you just have world visionaries that are leading this network. So I am going with a higher score on this one. I think Hedera Hashgraph should deserve a B. In some cases, the only reason it's not going to be an A, they don't have their breakout app. So Ethereum, they have breakout apps. How? Breakout apps. Guns, that is the biggest game in crypto. So Avalanche does technically have a full subnet of what it is winning in the competition of. Plus it has the RWAs Hedera does not have. So that is what separate those. I'm going to skip Ethereum Classic. I'm going to skip this one. Ethena. So Ethena, I personally hold Ethena. I think as we move towards a decentralized kind of world, I think there's going to be a very important piece for Ethereum and Bitcoin. And Ethena has this USDE token. That is their stablecoin. And whenever we hear about like stablecoins like USDC or USDT, these are all backed by like treasuries or gold or sometimes dollars, usually not dollars, but what Ethena's done is they created their USDE to be backed by Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is an algorithmic stablecoin that they use a delta neutral hedging strategy for. So it's very unique. They long it and they short it. So there's no way for this thing to collapse really based off the performance of Bitcoin and Ethereum. We've heard something similar with Terra Luna. So I'm not going to say that algorithmic stablecoins are the next best thing, but that's what you're betting on with Ethena in particular is, why are we running away from this fiat system and we're backing our biggest stablecoins with the fiat currencies? Doesn't make sense. So Ethena's like, let's back it with what the world is turning to, which is Bitcoin. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So going to Ethena, in terms of use case, it would definitely be up there in the S's. But I can't, as an investment, I have to treat it differently. So I'm definitely going to go with a B. It's a very solid, it's a good play. All right, we got 4 more. Just stick with me, y'all. I'm gonna run through these real quick and we'll do some questions and we will wrap this up. Next up, we got Monero. So Monero is the difference between Monero and Zcash is Monero is 100%. You have to remain private. Zcash is over here. You have something called an orchard pool. So about 30% of the transactions over here are anonymous. So people won't know I sent money to Angel, etc. Over here with Monero, 100% of them it is in the code. And that is exactly why the institutions stay away from this. Binance delisted it. Nobody wants, even governments, America, we don't want anything to do with Monero. And I think that is a good use case for why I would use it as a person, a bad use case on why I would buy it as an investor. So if I need to stay private, I'm trusting Monero over any network in crypto. If I'm using it as an investment, which this is a list of investments, by the way, I have to rate it different. So with Monero, we are going to go with a C. So again, it's an S in terms of use case. It is a C in terms of investment. And that's how I have to look at this. You know, I like the technology, but I mean, as a proof of work network, it's already been exposed that 50% of the hash rate plus was taken over. So it could have been destroyed like that. They could have taken out Monero last year if they wanted to. Cubic, they did an attack on it, and they took over 50% of the hash rate, which at that point, you can do something called double spending. So I can send my money to Angel, and then guess what? I can actually recall it, but Angel still gets to keep the money. So we actually doubled the money. And you can do that over and over and over. And essentially, it's the worst attack you can do on a blockchain. But thankfully, Cubic did not exploit Monero. Anyways, let's go. Move on. We got Polygon. The Polygon is the leading L2 solution for TVL, so real world assets. Also, their fees are second to none in terms of scaling solutions. So between, like, you got Base, you have Arbitrum. These are two big L2s, but they're big in their own way. So Coinbase is a massive company. Base Network is a massive network. Polygon beat them. They were first to market. 2021, they had a massive bull market. And this last bull market, they didn't compete, right? But if we look at tokenization, they are crushing it over there. So here we go. We have this thing between use case and investment, just like we had in these other ones. Polygon, since it is very cheap and being the first to move, it is probably an A in terms of use case. But as an investment, I got to go with C. Not only do you have the competition of some of the biggest networks from Arbitrum to Base to Optimism, but also, earlier I said the second half of the bull market, the blob throughput for Ethereum is going to fix itself. So I would not be surprised to see Ethereum well over $10,000 in this bull market. I think it'd actually 10x. I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit 15K because throughput is the biggest issue for Solana. So for Ethereum. So if Ethereum is thriving, it's going to sap away from the L2s the same way that the L2s sapped away from Ethereum because the scalability wasn't thriving in this past bull market. And that's why it barely hit a new all-time high. All right, last two, we got Near and Ondo Finance. So Near, I can't put it on the same tier as Tau because Tau is by far the best AI network. Near, I think the AI agents is pretty beast, and it definitely has a good use case over there. Very scalable. If you know anything about AI agents, like this is the next best thing since sliced bread. And you know, going back into the two use cases, I think that are breakouts. So I talked about perp dexes, and then I also talked about quantum computing. AI agents, do not sleep on this. Virtuals protocol, we're not going to cover it today. That is the second biggest play in crypto, in my opinion. AI agents are huge. And essentially, these are going to create on-chain economies. So Crux, whoever, we don't have to interact. There can be these living beings outside of humanity that are bartering, and they're good. You know, if they're bartering, they're collecting fees on the network, etc. And it's creating use cases for these networks. So it's kind of like fabricating economies. It's crazy. And I think Near that's their use case. Is looking to be an agentic economy. All right. Last but not least, we got Ondo Finance. Ondo. Boom. You're getting an S, Ondo. Why? Ondo Finance really didn't do anything until September of last year. Prior to that, they had OUSG, they had USDY. You had basically tokenized treasuries. So OUSG was backed by BUIDL, which is backed by BlackRock and some of the biggest like ETFs out there, some very safe products. And essentially you can buy OUSG and it goes up like I want to say like 0.3% or so a month. So over time, that's a pretty good APY just by holding this token. Pretty safe, pretty good. USDY is a stablecoin. Most of you guys know what stablecoins are, but eventually they moved on to tokenized stocks. That started in October of last year. And within not even a 1 year period, tokenized stocks have already hit $1 billion. After the Clarity Act passes, Ondo will be able to 20 or even 30x because of its low cap, because of the suppressed price, but the strong utility because of the partnership. So, all right, I just went almost 2 hours. So I'm 4 minutes away from 2 hours. Let's go ahead and answer some of these questions, and we will go ahead and wrap this thing up. First of all, I appreciate everybody from being here. Hit the like button. Says watch the store mill. Yeah. Hey, y'all tell me one other YouTuber that could have done this. Gone through this many different projects and spoken at a very high level on every one of them. And by the way, like these cryptos here, I didn't just like select them. I took a list that was already pre-made, and this was off the dome. There's so many different cryptos that are not on this list that I could just go for days on. So that's where I specialize. I understand these things, and that's why we don't allow Maxiisms here. If you're Bitcoin only, this isn't your channel. It's not. And I think all of these cryptocurrencies, they should have a decent voice, and they should have an honest opportunity to be able to create the next best thing. Got my bag, says Angel. There you go, Angel. Got my one SpaceX and souvenir. Robinhood only gave me one of my 11 requests. Okay. So you weren't able to get the full enchilada, but that's okay. That is okay. You got other different assets we just talked about that are worth lowering those DCAs on. All right, let's keep on going on these questions. I also hold XRP, XLM, Link, Zebic, and Hype. All solid projects, SVJ. You're doing a good job. All in pump.fun. So Bedridden, maybe you're just being a little bit meme, like by saying that. Hey, pump.fun, don't sleep on that one. I think it's a very solid opportunity. I actually hold a little bit of pump.fun. I don't think pump.fun's really going to do good until maybe 2027 or 2028, because meme coins don't start until euphoria hits. So once Bitcoin definitely hits a new all-time high, the meme coins, especially pump.fun, is going to really crush it. Trust me. Because people, what they do is like all these new people, they come in, they see Bitcoin's hit a new all-time high. They missed out on the 60K buy or the 40K buy. And then now they need to buy the next best thing. And they end up buying the meme coins that were created because of some UFC event over the weekend. And they try to like 5x, 10x their money overnight. So pump.fun will be back. Whoop, hour in and house is full. You cannot leave, Crux. Angel, I mean, you're on to something there. Sol and XRP only, says Drizzy. Hey, if you're only to hold two projects and those are the two, I think you're doing good. So I'll be honest with you, but I think you should diversify more. But if you're only holding two, I actually just did a Sol versus XRP video. I dropped it on Friday and you guys are loving it. That explains exactly why I hold each of them. So Solana is the on-chain economy. XRP is the institutional era. That's my bets. That's why I hold each of them. If Clarity Act passes, will it just be a short-term pump and back to winter? Very good question, Black Gold. If the Clarity Act passes, like, I don't expect it to pass this month, really. If it passes, I do think that that is the highest probability to bring us out of bear winter early. So, and I am 50-50 is a bull market, or is a bear market bottom in. So don't be all in, don't be all out. Have some dry powder, just depending on what you want to do. So 79 still here, 68 likes, great. Yeah, go ahead and throw those likes in there. Help this thing explode. This is definitely gonna be my most viewed live stream. Every week I do these, like these interactive live streams. You guys learn from them, so that's why I do them. Where do you see Sui price action in October? All right, let's go ahead and talk price action. Why not? All right, so that top tier up there, it's definitely different ranges of where I think the multiples being. Bitcoin, I already said, as low as 40K, 60K could be the bottom, and then by Q4, going Q3 2029, Bitcoin should be about 250K or so. If I was a betting man, that's where I'm going with. So whatever multiple that is, Solana, Sui, like Solana, I'm definitely going with $1,000 Solana. So that's well over 10x from here. That's how I would treat that one. Whatever you're able to get it at, expect it to go to about 1,000. That's a very psychological number there. Sui, I expect it to be the higher risk, higher reward to Solana. It's a much lower market cap, so whatever Solana does, I would probably do a 1.5x on top of that. So if Solana does a 10x, I'll probably go 15x on Sui. They move very similar. Hyperliquid, probably like a 10x, only because it held up super well. It hit a new all-time high today, while everything else is down, so it's already started essentially its bull market. So I would not be going all in on Hyperliquid, but if we talk about Hyperliquid's bull market starting early, it would probably be more like a 30x or so from its low multiple months ago all the way to its high. which most likely won't be here until 2029. Kaspa, man, y'all are gonna look. Put your moon boy wings on for this one. I think Kaspa will get to $1. So Kaspa is currently, let's just say 3 cents. That's a 33x. Huge opportunity there. And then another 30x opportunity will be Ondo Finance, because I don't think any project appreciates faster after the Clarity Act passes than Ondo Finance. So that is my price predictions over there. I see a lot of people still here. This is 2 hours after the start of this live stream, and you guys are loving it. I see the questions. I can go all day as long as they're tuning in. So Toshi is a good one to hold. I agree, Shannon. I hold Toshi. Angel likes Toshi. We like Toshi. I don't own any Doge. I'm a cat person. Go Toshi. We got a lot of people in here to talk about Toshi. So, hey, Crux, my strategy. Trading with the Tim Warren VIP trading group. Stacking for the October dips. Awesome. Let's talk real quickly about this group while we are here. Look, the VIP trading group, it's about $100 per month. But I'm telling you, if you stick around with this group, you're going to learn how to trade. If you're not ready to start trading yet, we have the student section. It's only $30 a month. There's over 90 different videos in there, and they'll take your trading to prepare you for that VIP trading group. So, you know, we've been doing this for multiple cycles at this point. We built Tim's channel up to, I think, like almost 70,000 subscribers at this point. And I'm telling you right now, we are the next era of cryptocurrency. And this next cycle is going to be my first full bull run as a content creator. And I think I'm going to hit 100,000 subscribers. So you guys are here before the masses are here. Anyone knows that Crux knows? Yeah, I'm going with Bonk and Pepe for my memes. D-Stance, those are good picks. I've round-tripped my Doge twice. Yeah, you're not alone. A lot of people bought Doge at like 8 cents whenever that Super Bowl happened in like 2021. And then they rode it up to 76 cents with the SNL skit. And remember, in May, it topped out and did not double top into November. So it definitely topped out early, and it was pure manipulation from the most influential person in the world. What about Quant, says Silent? Quant, how about this? I'll go on CoinVault's channel, and we will talk about Quant there, because Max, he's a bigger content creator than me, and he understands Quant at a deeper level than I do. So definitely check out CoinVault. We will talk about it there. We'll go live on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crux, I appreciate your stream and videos. You basically said it is a coin flip, so why not? Yeah, I already answered that one. Cowboys are terrible. So we're gonna crap on my favorite football team. I'm from Dallas, Texas, so all right. You guys are crushing me. 2 hours after doing this, by the way, you're taking a shot at me personally. But I love y'all anyways. Username, Crux. Get the boat. That's what we're doing. So if you guys know, it's a little running joke. We're talking about boats already. We're in a bear winter. How do you get there? You have to psychologically put yourself in a position. We're talking about yachts, not just boats. And this is going to be a running meme all the way into 2029. So if you hear me talk about yachts and boats and stuff like that, most likely username is in chat, and he is spurring the conversation. Mike, Ondo is going to hit $5. Minimum leg up. You could be right. Ondo unlocks his bleh. Yeah, so every January 18th, Ondo does an infamous unlock. This next one, I think it's like 16% of the supply unlocks. But what happens is every single time leading up into that unlock, the price dumps, and then after it does a pump, and then it dumps again. So very interesting how the price action is easy to call. If you're a trader, there's nothing easier to trade than the Ondo token unlocks. Angel, Crux, great show today. You are the best. I appreciate it. And I will be the best content creator on cryptocurrency. You're hearing it here first. And it is because I don't focus on any one community. I do have my favorites, of course, but like this is personal to me. I'm somebody who made $1.3 million from 130K in under half a year. Crazy. I've lost 700K in 3 weeks. So like I'm speaking from a position of like experience, but I also understand your perspective too, because I've been a viewer for a long time on crypto, and this space is mine now. That's how I see it. And I'm going to put my voice up against anybody's. This has been so informative. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it, Gary. Thank you guys for tuning around. I have 80 of y'all still in here, so you guys apparently like what I'm doing, and I appreciate that. All right, let's read some more. Make sure you're all subscribed to the Crux of Crypto channel and set your notifications on. Do not miss it. Yeah, so my live streams are going to be incredibly important going all the way into October of this year, because that's when I will flip, and I'll be like, all right, I'm all in. You guys see my portfolio. I'm going to show you guys everything. You know, I've allowed you guys to spend my hard-earned money here on these live streams. I'll load up a Phantom wallet with 1,000 USDC, and you guys will vote on what gets to go in there. And that's how much I trust you guys. Like I'm teaching you guys how to fish, and you guys are proving it with my own money. So where's Monad at? Says Derek. Yeah, this whole list over here. This was my bad. This was already created. So there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that I personally believe in. Monad's probably up there at like a C, honestly, maybe even a D. Monad, shout out, they were the first ones to get private funded through the Coinbase people, or Coinbase One Prime. The people who have that membership were able to get access to tokens early, which is exactly why you saw a run up in the first week or so. Monad launched and then a huge sell off. So I don't think Monad's the next best thing since sliced bread. They don't have any proprietary technology. They're just another L1 out there, and we have enough L1s. So, all right, well, let's continue reading some questions. Where can you do Aerodrome, says Money Music? Yeah, of course. So Aerodrome is not on this list. Aerodrome, where would I put it though? So Aerodrome is going to definitely beat Uniswap. It has a much lower market cap, but also like Uniswap doesn't have the exchange effect that Coinbase has, and especially like Unichain cannot compete with Base Network. So I think Aerodrome, it has to either be an A or a B. So it can't be an S. It's not a Hyperliquid, but it can be, it's going to be hard for me to give it an A. I can't give it an A. I got to go B. So I'm going with the B on Aerodrome. I have a ton of expectations for it. I hold a lot of Aerodrome. I hold a lot of Morpho. And just like I talked about with Uniswap and Aave, you see how Uniswap got a C, but Aave got the B? Borrowing and lending is a better niche than the decentralized exchanges because of the competition from the perp dexes. So borrowing and lending doesn't have that kind of competition. If I gave Aerodrome a B, I would give Morpho an A. I would give it one tier up. All right, let's keep going. Crux. Okay, see that? This has been so informative. Yeah, I read that earlier. Crux is a king of alpha. If you're going to beta on crypto, you got to have the alpha. By the way, Crux breaks this stuff down in the Tim Warren Trade Group. Yeah, I read that one earlier. Crux, 80 people in here. I'm a little bit far behind, but do you know what is dot, or you look into some different YouTube channels than you think you know? It says Dundo. So Dundo, I'm glad you're challenging me. Let me tell you who I am. I am the person who bought dot in September of 2020. 2021. Okay. Whenever dot launched, the day it launched, it was $5. I bought in. It went up to, I think, $45. So I made, it was 2020. So September of 2020. And the reason I remember this is because in May of 2021, when I made 130K I turned 130K into 1.3 million. May, I had some Polkadot in my portfolio. I went to Las Vegas. And during that huge collapse, like the ESG FUD that Elon Musk was talking about, it smoked my portfolio. And that's how I lost 700K in three weeks, is because of May 2021, which was it was like the first peak, right? And what happened is I sold some like after it took a hit. And honestly, I would have sold more, but Coinbase froze up. Coinbase was like, nah, we're not going to let you put your money on our exchange and liquidate through us. So thankfully, it ended up recovering much higher than what I would have sold at. But Polkadot was part of that portfolio. You know, I did my research on Gavin Woods and all these people before I bought Polkadot, and I was pushing it way back then. So I know my stuff with Polkadot and Parachains and Kusama and all these other things that they created. But that's okay. Like I encourage you guys to question me, because that's how we all learn. But I will tell you, there's not a lot of people that know more about crypto, and that's why I am the crux of crypto. I joined this past Saturday the VIP group, and it's opened my eyes big time. Awesome, Gary. Thank you. I want to learn how to trade, but it works, but I work 12-hour days. Yeah, Silent, for sure. Definitely focus on your what we call fiat mining. Make sure you're making your money through a legitimate means. So like you're working your 9 to 5, you're going to work, you're clocking in. Trading is something that you can learn later. Maybe during a weekend, maybe on Saturdays you take your time. But I think the $30 a month, the Academy, 80 different videos. So within like 5 hours or so, you could knock out all those videos, and you can definitely learn a lot from that. And I would say I would probably start there. Only $30. And this is Tim Warren. He's a very good trader, and it's why we blew his channel up to about 70,000 views or subscribers. You can do better than XYO. When their community fell for an X-based partnership, should have been a red flag you need to see. Username, interesting. I don't know about XYO in terms of like a red flag, but we covered them like 2 years ago. Me and T-Shroom did, or maybe even 3 years ago at this point. Yeah, it was like during the beginning part of the last bull market was we covered XYO, but as a niche, I think DPIN is going to be pretty solid. So I think the Heliums of the world will survive. Crux, give us your honest opinion on ICP, please, says Husky. Husky, real quick, since we are past like 2 hours and 10 minutes in, I talked a lot about ICP on Longview Compute's live stream. So go on Longview Compute, all one word, on YouTube, and then go back 2 weeks. You'll see my face on the thumbnail, and you'll see ICP there, and we'll give our honest takes there. Gotta go. Great stuff, bro. Yeah, thank you. 102 likes. Hell yeah. I appreciate every one of you guys. You lose money on DOT, and because of that, you are mad. No, I didn't. Dundo. I just told you I bought it at $5, and I rode it all the way up to its all-time high, $45. And I sold some definitely I sold some at like $15. So what happened was whenever it launched in September of 2021, I was in there like swimwear and rode it up. May comes. It probably went up to like $40 or so. So I bought at 5, goes to 40, then it drops to like 15. I tried to sell here, but Coinbase would not let me liquidate. And then I come back up, it goes to like 35 and I sell. So, I mean, proof's in the pudding. Check out my pinned video. So if you think all of this is just smoke and mirrors, check my pinned video on my YouTube channel. And I explain the entire story on how I got into crypto, how I turned 130 into 1.3 mil, and the lessons learned from that whole case. And it's super important because I'm here and I'm transparent. Where would you put virtuals? Good question, Jubies. So virtuals. I'd go, since Tau got an A and then Near Protocol got a B, I think virtuals is in between these two. I would put it at an A. I'd put virtuals at an A because it is the leading narrative for AI agents, and I think AI agents are a massive use case going into this next bull market. And I'd actually possibly put it over Tau in terms of ROI. So yeah, virtuals gets an A. All right, without further ado, we are 135 minutes past the start of the hour, and you guys are loving it. I appreciate everything you guys do. We are the fastest growing channel in cryptocurrency, and you guys are in the best opportunity to invest. So within now and October, continue to work. DCA, lower the DCAs, work. That's it. Boom. You have a couple months. So thank you guys for this opportunity. I'll be here next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do this every single week. And then as we go into the bull market, I'll do more live streams every week. So don't think I'm just don't think I'm just once a week type of guy. Like, I'm going to be here to help you guys through the bull market too. So without further ado, Shannon Cross. Love it, Crux. Anyone still talking about Avantis? We'll talk about that in Discord. Ping me over there, Shannon, and I'll make sure I hit you there. Angel, I'll see you next live. T-Shroom, welcome in. We just had the best live streams. This live stream is about to hit thousands and thousands of views out here for a very small channel. And we are, again, the fastest growing channel in crypto. And we're doing it with not a lot of subscribers. So we are growing very quickly here. And appreciate every opportunity you guys give. And make sure y'all check out T-Shroom's morning market report. It is dope. Every single morning, every weekday, Monday to Friday, you can wake up and you have a way to, drink your coffee, eat your toast, throw a little jam on your toast, and just check it out because T-Shroom is a wealth of knowledge over there. So, all right, without further ado, you guys have an awesome